I do believe we're on, is that right? Welcome to another, hopefully not bad stream of whatever it is we do right now. How y'all doing today? It's been a day and a half for sure. It's been a long day, slow day, nothing too serious going on, but hey, if you're having a, I don't know. I'm always bad at starting these streams. They're always terrible. I'm sure if you watch the VOD, you're kind of like, what is this person saying? Trying to buy for time as people come in, most likely. It's been a so. What has everyone been up to lately? Anything interesting in chat? If you're in chat, mention right now if something cool's going on. Our biggest Pokemon hot take. If we define hot take as controversial but earnestly held, Pokemon opinion is that I like the Pokemon Snap and new Pokemon Snap that's on rails. I don't mind the Pokemon Snap's on rails. It's fun. I mean, Pokemon Snap's great. I love Pokemon Snap. I've always been biased because Pokemon Snap is one of those things where it's just like a resounding success in every sense of the word. You see, for me, Pokemon Snap was one of the first games I ever played for Pokemon. That was back when, you'd have your friend. Every friend group would have, the one friend who had the N64, the one friend who had the PS1. I was the friend who had the PS1. And all my other friends were N64 people. So whenever I'd hang out with them as kids, I would go and play Pokemon Snap and Hey You Pikachu, which is clearly the best Pokemon game of all time, clearly. And, no, I always loved Pokemon Snap. Pokemon Snap's a great game. That, of course, said, it's also a very, I don't know. I think Pokemon Snap is interesting, but I feel like New Snap really elevated the formula in a way that I think was really cool. And think is really cool. But, what are you going to do? Now, today we're having a Manhattan variant today. I decided to stick, you can't really see this too clearly, I put a stick of cinnamon in here because I want to have like a fall vibe a little bit. I mean, honestly, the problem is with any fall vibes, it's like you gotta like cultivate that vibe, you gotta enjoy that vibe. And right now, I really want there to be some good fall vibes coming up because it's just it's that season for me. So we have a few people in chat. Let me take a look at what's going on here. Hey, how's it going, y'all? My Pokemon hot take. Bluebo. My Pokemon hot take is that Sword and Shield were a mistake and shouldn't exist. Oof. Why would you say something so controversial and yet so brave? Hot take of my own. Competitive adds to the fun of the game rather than take away from it. Understanding the game on the level comp requires just gives you a better appreciation of it. Yeah, that's true. I think comp adds something to the game. I mean, granted, I'm not like super competitive into Pokemon. If you see my Nuzlocke, I don't think that's too much of a shock. But I do love the competitive scene because it really shows how there's so much depth to this system. And granted, the gameplay is, on some level, is a turn-based RPG, but there's so much depth and combination and creativity behind it that I think it's really admirable and incredible. We're talking anything. If you ever want to share any of your hot takes, by the way, drop them either in chat or as a super chat, and I'll respond to them right away. Now, I have here, I picked out a few videos, two of which I have not seen yet, one of which I have. The one I have seen, it's a pretty good video. I'm going to respond. I don't agree with everything the video maker says, but I think it's a really solid video that opens up the door to a lot of discussion. And with this kind of stream, the intention is going to be just that, discussion. I don't expect any of these streams to have as bad of a take as what we saw with Lily Orchard, but I do think it opens the door up to some really interesting and fun and engaging discussion. Because at the end of the day, I believe that media criticism is a discussion. It's a conversation between us and everyone else like us. So I think by having that discussion be a full thing, it benefits everyone. There's no downside to it, in my opinion. I'm trying to smell the cinnamon from this drink. I just put a cinnamon stick in here. Just a whole stick. I was going to stir with it, but then when I poured the drink, the cinnamon stick kind of crumbled a little bit, so I can't even stir with it, which is unfortunate. My opinions tend to spark outrage. Cinemageddon, tell us your opinions that will make everyone angry. I need to hear this. Now, for those of you who don't know, drinking game. We're not doing a drinking game. I only have one drink on me. I don't want to get drunk tonight. All right, I'll be honest with you. That's only for exceptional occasions, and I'm not a fan of that. Again, people like think I drink a lot in these streams. I really don't. I have like 1 or 2 beverages usually, but like the ones where I have more than that, I don't enjoy it. Like, it just makes me feel miserable, and I feel like I'm not interesting enough either. I get kind of like my brain goes kerfuzzle. Anyway, I'm going to talk about fundy Christian reactions to Pokemon back in the late 90s. We could do that if we have enough time. I've selected 3 videos I have in the thumbnail, but if we have more time, I might just go into fundamental Christian. Well, the problem there, it's a little tough to find those too. A lot of the fundamental Christian rants that people like cite a lot of the time, they're not actually on YouTube anymore. They're on like other sites, so I have to dig a little to find them. I'm not going to trust random links posted in chat, unfortunately. As much as easy it would be to say, oh, just post a link to it in chat. I've been on the internet long enough not to trust even links from chat, because people love to slip some things in if you're not paying attention. I thought Pokemon Sword and Shield was fun. We have some disagreement here. Some disagreement on whether or not Sword and Shield was good or bad. I'm in the middle somewhere. I think it's a fine game. I think Scarlet and Violet needed a lot more time in the kitchen. I think Sword and Shield kind of has some problems, but not as many problems as Scarlet and Violet. But I do love one of the gym leaders in particular, for very, very good reason. Not at all problematic reasons right there. Anyway, let's talk a little bit. So actually, for those who don't know, I did have a bit of a... Well, I'm waiting for people to come into chat. I might as well talk about my controversy the other day. Cinemageddon, congratulations for being a member for 1 month as a producer. You're one of my top tiers there. The Pokemon games got better the second EXP share became a standard feature instead of a single item for one of your Pokemon to hold. That is a hot take. That is a hot take. Oh my goodness. I'm not sure I agree with that, actually, but that is a hot take. Personally, I do like EXP share. I do think it makes the game a little easy at times, but that's why I personally I like to turn it off if possible in games, but, you know, that's how it is for me. Again, it's a feature. It's an option. You can choose to use it. If not, that's okay. I choose not to use it. I think it makes the game too easy, but I know in later games it's like standard, so I don't know, you know. When it's something you can turn off and on, I turn it off typically, unless there's some reason to like use it. Yeah, that's sparking outrage. I'm not a fan of EXP share personally. Anyway, so let me talk a little bit about my controversy on Tumblr before we dive into these videos, as we're waiting for people to come on in. So Tumblr, let me show you my Tumblr account. I got into a bit of an argument recently with a dear friend of the channel. We'll put it that way. Here you go. Gotta figure out how to show this on screen. Just show me my blog. I just want to see the blog. Sorry, here we go. Yeah, so what happened was, for those who don't know, on Tumblr, there's no easy way of putting it. It's a Lily Orchard jump scare. She has messaged me from beyond the veil of Tumblr about villains, and because I'm working on a villain video, I feel like it's relevant to discuss. Recently, Lily Orchard said that people challenge her, the audience of Tumblr, everyone collectively on Tumblr, that you couldn't name 50 sympathetic villains. So at this point, she's just saying sympathetic, just that. Now, the problem is, how do you define sympathetic? What counts as sympathetic? Well, that's a little trickier, isn't it? So for a few sympathetic villains, let me get this. So I opened up a list. Let me open that real quick. I'm gonna bring my thing over here. All right. Let me zoom in a little bit here. There we go. All right, there we go. Cool. So I named John Hammond, Magneto, Cube, Roy Batty, Walter Peck, Lord Genome, and whole list is on here. You can find it on my Tumblr. It's a whole bunch of characters. Her response to it was swift and loud. She basically got very angry that I had even suggested this, and had a response to everything. But her response, strangely enough, revealed that she didn't really... And this is all public, by the way. This isn't a private conversation. It's all public, front of the internet kind of conversation. She went through the whole list, and it's very interesting. So, for one, she said John Hammond doesn't count as a sympathetic villain. I think this means that she did not read the book Jurassic Park, but I digress. Apparently, Cube and Magneto aren't sympathetic or at least interesting antagonists with dynamic perspectives. But the fun thing is this. Lord Genome, can't comment. Prince Nuada from Hellboy 2, can't comment. Dr. Zaius from Planet of the Apes, can't comment. General Hummel, can't comment. Lucy, can't comment. Scar from FMA, not Lion King, that's just a no. Puppet Master from Ghost in the Shell, can't comment. Zagato from Magic Knight of Earth, can't comment. Joseph from The Changeling 1980, can't comment. Stain from My Hero Academia, can't comment. Itachi, makes fun of me for citing Naruto. Molly Hale from Pokémon, disqualified, can't, not a villain, she says. Okay, if you say so. Javert from Les Miserables, can't comment. Joel Axel, can't comment because apparently she's never heard of Joel Axel despite Baldur's Gate being one of her favorite games where Joel Axel appears. Luke from Percy Jackson, she says, read another book. The Lord Ruler from Mistborn, can't comment. Half of the criminals in Columbo, refuses to answer. Medusa, not a villain. Miles Edgeworth, antagonist, not a villain. Dracula, she refused to engage with any of these different Draculas. So I listed Dracula from Castlevania, Dracula from Dracula Untold, and Dracula from Helsing, who is in fact Alucard, 3 very different characters who all happen based on Dracula. She refused to engage because apparently Dracula is a predator. I did not realize vampires were predators. It's not like that goes in the title of the name, but whatever. Magus from Chrono Trigger, can't comment. Jecht from Final Fantasy X, can't comment. Gabriel and Satan from the Prophecy films, can't comment. Meta Knight says that Meta Knight never makes a point. Says that King Dedede never has a point. Donkey Kong disqualified because he's the protagonist, apparently. Despite Donkey Kong, the first game Donkey Kong showed up in, being a game where Donkey Kong's the bad guy. The boss, apparently, is bad because Metal Gear Solid villain. The grandmother from, what was the movie? Encanto, apparently, doesn't count. King Haggard from Last Unicorn, can't comment. The Ice King, can't comment. King Kong is apparently not capable of villainy because he's an animal. She thinks Godzilla's a nuke, and she thinks that Gorgo, from the movie Gorgo, is bad because it didn't cite where Gorgo, the character from the movie Gorgo, comes from. It comes from Gorgo. The movie Gorgo. That's where Gorgo comes from. Satan from Paradise Lost apparently doesn't count either. And Leto II from God Emperor of Dune can't comment. Apparently I got a 1 out of 50 because she counted Imhotep as a correct answer. Apparently I need to report to Remedial English in the summer term because she has never read Paradise Lost. And that's that. That's the whole thing. That's my drama. I've been dealing with that ever since. Fun times to be had. Apparently, can't comment on a lot of details. Apparently. So, that went up, that blew up on Tumblr, became a whole full-fledged thing. Also, friend of the channel, Krim, also made his own list. Lily gave him a 0 out of 50. Apparently, none of them passed Lily's muster. There is something very interesting to be had when discussing a villain and an antagonist. That's a good point of discussion. It's almost like I'm including this point in discussion to segue into promoting, potentially, let's say hypothetically speaking, a video that I may or may not have worked on. But that'd be wild. Oh, hang on. Charboy, thank you for the super chat. Chimchar, best starter. Infernape, my goat. Yeah, you know what? I don't agree with you, but I respect that opinion. Is the best way of putting it. Chimchar is good. Infernape is good. Not what I'd say is my best starter, but I accept your opinion no matter what. That's not bad. So, Also, someone calculated that apparently like a third of these answers collectively were can't comment, so Lily doesn't exactly have a very widely read experience with media, but that's okay. I'm not going to hold it against her. Because this stream's not about Lily. I had no intention of talking about her until this happened. But I do want to discuss the videos in question that will be coming up, but before I do that, I do want to bring up something really interesting. Something we're working on right now. I think this is it right here, right? No, that's not it. Oh no, it's right here. So, here we go. This is it. So this Friday, speaking of villains, we're going to be having a bit of a villain day. Specifically, Friday's video. You like the thumbnail? This thumbnail was made by Lines in Motion, who's a really good YouTuber. You should watch their stuff. This is going to be Friday's topic of discussion. Villains. I'm really excited for this one. A lot of hard work was put into it, and I'm hoping it turns out all right. But that's just enough self-promotion for now. You came here to watch. For me to watch Pokemon videos, right? This isn't Pokemon. There's just some little house cleaning as people file in. But I'm really excited for this video, and I'm hoping it does well. All right, that's out of the way. We can get started. Now. So, first video. Let's start with the devil I know, because it's an easy way to warm up. Marker here is a up-and-coming YouTuber whose work I think is fantastic so far. I want to say he. Let me double check. Is pronouns in bio? No pronouns are in bio, but he's really solid. He's done some really good stuff. His videos are all really fantastic. If you haven't seen Marker's stuff yet, you absolutely should. It's really good. And he just finished getting through a video series where he goes through every single Pokemon movie. All 25 of them. We're only going to watch the first video, though, because I have 2 of the videos we won't get through. If we have enough time, we can jump in on the other 2 as well. He, him up top. Oh, he, him. There you go. So, yeah, it is he. Okay, cool. I was right. I don't want to misgender anyone ever. But, no, Marker's pretty solid. He may even be in chat. He's been in chat a couple times before, so he may pop up here. I don't know. I hope he pops up as I'm the most critical against his video, just to mess with him. But no, he's really solid. He is really good. His video series is excellent. You should all watch it. Again, the link to the 3 videos we're going to talk about primarily, they're in the description right now. If we watch some later on, I'll add it to the description so in VOD we can watch it again. Marker is solid. However, I don't totally agree with every perspective he has. So, with that parameter mentioned, I'm going to bust his chops a little bit. He's already gotten a bunch of views on this, so I don't think this counts as a replacement for anything. But if you haven't seen it yet, you should. Marker is fantastic. But consider this a little commercial for his work.
I'm sure anyone who watched...
All right, does this look good? Let me make sure it's all well adjusted here. Cool. And we are good. Cool, excellent. So, we're going to jump in right now and begin. Also, I do this is so he'll explain the concept. I'm not gonna explain that for you. Wait, survive a little bit. Let's go.
The Pokemon anime growing up had fond memories of the movies. They were self-contained, fun little adventures with Ash and whichever friends he brought onto Death's Door alongside him. But how good were they really?
That joke is not
I watched
aged well at
all
all,
25 of them, spanning across almost every generation, to answer that very question. And yeah, this video was inspired by Ted Nivensen's Barbie video, which is an amazing video, and you should watch it if you haven't.
Another video to watch. Apparently, I've been told I have to watch Barbie and Fairytopia. That will come. It'll come after Halloween. Maybe it'll come even before Halloween. Who knows? Maybe it'll be the next video. Who knows? I don't know. We'll find out. I gotta get something easy actually after this week's. I have a wedding to go to this weekend. I have a bachelor party coming up this month. Anyway,
after you're done watching this one, of course. Hey, I'm just gonna pause real quick. I'm recording this like 3 months in the future. So basically, this video ended up being a lot longer than I wanted it to be. So for my own sanity, I'm splitting it up into 3 different parts. These parts will be for the different eras that I'm going to be talking about. Me is about to talk about that in a second, so I'll finish up quick. Yeah, so this is part 1 of 3. Parts 2 and 3 will be out when I finish them. So, yeah, enjoy the video.
You see, I feel that so much. There are so many video projects I start on where I'm like, because I make a video every week, so I'm like, oh, cool, I'll get this done, it'll be fantastic. And I'm like, oh, I bit off more than I could chew. This is a lot of work. Again, the Pokemon video from last week was that kind of same way, where I put a ton of work into it, and it was just a lot of effort, but hey, I mean, at least people are watching, which is good. This video I did this week is a little shorter, so I hear you there. Marker, I hear you there.
So, similar to his video, I'm splitting the movies into my personally curated and officially recognized eras of Pokemon theatrical releases and talking in length about the worst and best from each one. First, the classic era, which took place from 1996 to 2006, based on the US release dates. The golden era, spanning from 2007 to 2016, not necessarily because the quality of these movies happen to be better, but these are what I grew up watching, so I'm biased. And
then I felt very old hearing that. I felt ancient hearing that. I digress, though.
Kalos era, which started in 2017 and goes to present day, where they just did whatever they wanted. This will make covering the movies I want to talk about much easier, so we can just speed through the ones that weren't all that special. And how will I be figuring out which ones to focus on? Well, I'll be giving each movie a grade out of 20 based on 4 categories. Story. How interesting / unique was the story? Did I get invested, or could I not even understand a single thing that was happening? Battles. How cool were the battles? Pretty simple category. It's a Pokemon movie, so it's gotta have cool battles. It's the law. Look it up. Enjoyment. How much did I enjoy the movie? Was I smiling through it all, or glancing at the clock waiting for the torture to end? And finally, Ash's mortality. If you've seen a few Pokemon movies, you already know that Ash is a little bit, how do you say it, insane? There's at least one moment in almost every movie where he risks his life for some reason, or just straight up dies. So that's what this category is for. The closer to death he is, the higher the score. Now, you might be thinking, so in order for...
I'm going to pause it right there. That spectrum right there of ratings is pretty solid. Especially the Ash mortality rate, which I think is the most critical point system of any Pokemon movie grading system. Ash being close to death is very important. Nick Wolf, thank you for the super chat. I saw the first video a while ago. It was fun, but felt incomplete, given that he was making conclusions on the dub, which wasn't always accurate. That is fair. I do want to address one thing, though. In a later video, Marker does watch the most recent one, the Jungle movie, and he recommends watching it in the sub because the dub took some stuff out. That's important to note. It is an example of where he kind of contradicts that structure, but again, he is more dub focused, which is fair, but he does say that the most recent movie is worth watching sub only. Well, technically one movie he watched isn't dubbed also, which is Detective Pikachu, because it was filmed in English and he watched it in English. So there's no dub there, which that's valid. Also, Detective Pikachu is a really underrated movie. You guys, have you seen Detective Pikachu? I remember seeing it in theaters when it came out with my now spouse. I like that movie. Detective Pikachu's good, okay? I mean, it's not nothing amazing, but I just find it strange how that never got a sequel. Like, it's really bizarre to me. Anyway, moving on.
For a Pokemon movie to be perfect, Ash has to die?
Yes.
Also, if the movie has
God,
a banger
I
intro
did
song,
that.
it gets a bonus point. So, theoretically, the best of these movies can get up to a 21 out of 20. But we'll have to wait and see if any of them can reach that level of critical acclaim. With all that out of the way, let's get into the first movie on the list, which... Oh, Pokemon the first movie, how fitting.
Yeah, there we go. The dub title is very apt with that sense.
Pokemon the first movie, or Mewtwo Strikes Back, as might be better known, is where it all began. Basically, a group of scientists get hired by Giovanni, the leader of Team Rocket, to create a Pokemon super weapon through cloning. But the laws of nature don't like that, so it blows up in their face. This creates Mewtwo, who goes on a bit of a tantrum and builds a sick-as-hell villain lair on a secluded island where he invites strong trainers to come and fight him or whatever. He hates humans and wants to kill them all, but Ash is like, what if I killed myself right in front of you? And he's like really chill now. Also, Mew is the cutest thing ever. Mewtwo's whole story...
So what's funny is, I think, at one point, the plan was that Mew was going to... Well, I think actually in the Japanese version, Mew's commentary is a little more... on the nose, a little less adorable, a little more cynical. It's funny too because this movie, of course, when it came out, I was like maybe like what was I like I was a kid. Was it 1999? So it would have been like 9 or 8. It was like the biggest event of the year. People were like going nuts. I remember there was a movie theater not too far away from where I grew up. The line for the first Pokemon movie was so far out the door, it wrapped around the parking lot, it wrapped into oncoming traffic. It was fantastic. And I think it's not bad. It's a pretty decent movie, I think. I think the first Pokemon movie, and again, I know I just did a whole video about Pokemon and all that stuff, and I said the first movie doesn't have to change too much. Yeah, I mean, he used about blood purity in the original Japanese, which is wild to me. It's like, that's more villainous than anything else, actually. I'm more on Mewtwo's side with that whole commentary. I think it is good. It is a good movie for kids and families, but I do think, like, as time goes on, it's a little... Aside from Mewtwo, who is one of the best Pokemon villains around, I think the movie doesn't hold up in many ways. I think I kind of like it a little less in hindsight. I think it's a little simple. I feel like Ash and all the human trainers have such a reduced role until Ash again jumps into into the line of fire. And as a result, I think it doesn't really have a central conflict with the main protagonists beyond them just bearing witness to Mewtwo's power, which makes everyone feel very helpless, and it's good from a cosmic standpoint. But I like how later films really go into detail with how Ash and company, they go into these stories and have more initiative, they have more drive, they have more ability to change effects, change the plot lines of what goes on. So I think Pokemon the first movie, it is great for what it did. I love Mewtwo as a character. His arc is really great. But Ash and company feel like so superfluous to the plot, you kind of almost question why they're there at all. I would say Mewtwo's sympathetic. Yeah, in a heartbeat I'd say that.
Story is actually super f***ed up and really well written, and the story that follows is pretty fun, so 4 out of 5 for that. It's a perfect movie for a TV show, though it does feel like an extended episode sometimes. Yeah. The battles were alright. Ash's Charizard versus the clone Charizard was definitely the highlight, but it totally slipped my mind that they got the Backstreet Boys feature for the clones fighting scene.
Oh god,
so that took me out a bit. 3 out of 5. This was such a fun watch, though.
Did anyone else have the soundtrack for Pokemon the first movie growing up? Because I wore that thing till it was like scratching in my CD player. I remember there was some songs on that there that were like kind of like weirdly. I remember they had a couple of songs they end up making covers for Pokemon Puzzle League, which is so surreal to me, where like the game itself had covers of real pop songs that were written, that existed and were on the radio and all that for their Pokemon game. I guess it was like written for the movie or something like that, but I just find it so wild. It kind of has the same vibe as the Dragon Ball Z movies back in the day, having like Disturbed and Deftones on the soundtrack, Drowning Pool on the soundtrack. It has that same vibe of like, what were people in this time period for the target audience listening to? Let's put that in the movie and it'd be great. I love when they did that, but they'll never do it again nowadays, I don't think. At least not likely, because, you know.
No question. Like, I'll always love this movie until the day I die, so if I'm ever not enjoying this movie, you have permission to shoot me dead. 5 out of 5. And Ash literally dies for a few minutes, so that's an easy 5 for the mortality rating.
Easy.
Oh, and it had a great intro, so bonus point for
That's
that.
a good fight,
Mewtwo Strikes
too.
Back gets a strong 18 out of 20. This one...
See, I like it, but I don't love it as much. I've always enjoyed it. It's very nostalgic for me, but I would never say Pokemon the first movie is like... I don't know. I have a couple issues with it. I prefer Pokemon 2000 more than Pokemon the first movie. I wonder if that leads to anything that I'm going to disagree with Marker on. All right, let's keep going.
One was just as great as I remember it being. I also learned from some of my friends that the first 10 minutes of Mewtwo's backstory wasn't included as part of the full movie's runtime in some home releases, instead being a special feature, specifically on the English DVDs, which is pretty interesting. I guess a little girl clone and multiple Pokemon's implied death was a little too much, so they had to hide it behind the silly DVD menu. Anyways, next up we have Pokemon the movie 2000, The Power of One. Most of the story details are a bit foggy, but I remember having fond memories of this movie. And I love Lugia, so it's gotta be amazing, right?
Lugia's great. Love Lugia.
And Dash is never really alone because he's got me.
What are you doing? You're not doing anything!
Pikachu!
I thought she was gonna say Pikachu.
Misty, you've done literally nothing this whole movie. Okay, I don't know if I just wasn't paying.
Okay, that's fair also. Misty should have done a lot more in that movie. Listen, you heard my entire Pokemon. If you watched my Pokemon rewrite video, you know my biggest criticism was giving Misty more stuff. Oh, not my biggest. My biggest was, I have a lot of criticisms, but Misty not doing enough was one of them. I always try making sure Misty fits in places because I think Misty had so much potential and use it enough. Anyway, but I'm distracted. Nick Wolf, thank you for the super chat. You say that, but if Pokemon 3 pulled a DBZ movie 4 and Stupefied by Disturb played during the Entei versus Charizard fight, the movie would have been perfecter. You're not wrong. I love the soundtrack for Pokemon 3. I think it's a great, everything. But, yeah, if they started playing Stupefy during that, I would have loved that. I'm sure there's an AMV from 2007 that has that, though. That sounds like 2007 AMV might still be around. I'm not sure. Colonel Mustang. Colonel Mustang. As a fellow Poke shipper, I too am biased towards Pokemon 2000. Yeah, I know. As a Pokemon shipper, it's got me by the throat. I love that. Yeah. Anyway, let's
Pay attention or something, but man, this movie did not hit as hard as I remember it. There's this evil collector guy, and his name is Lawrence III. He's trying to capture all 3 legendary Kanto birds so he can summon Lugia in order to catch him, I think. I can kind of relate to him in a way. Ash and the gang get involved in the whole debacle through landing on a random island, which has some festival going on related to the birds. The chosen one, which is Ash, has to go collect the island balls and bring them to a central point where this girl, Melody, plays her flute or something. Hijinks ensue, birds fight a lot, Ash gets all the balls, Baja Blast fills the ocean, and the world is saved. And there's a talking Slowking that honestly is chill as hell.
Yeah.
I do respect what they tried to go for with this movie. Having this festival related to the birds and the culture surrounding it is honestly a really cool idea. But I just kept getting confused on what was up with these fucking birds. Like, one second they were chill and breaking each other out of prison, then they were fighting to the death like they didn't just take down a huge-ass industrial ship together 10 minutes ago. I don't know, maybe I'm just stupid, but it felt really weird to me. And
I do agree with that part. That's a criticism that's fair. The birds don't make any sense. It's like they get angry and they blow up the ship and then they're like, let's just blow up something else. And they just attack each other for the whole movie. Like, that seems a little wonky. I do agree. But I kind of love it. It's that kind of like, I love how thematically nature being put out of balance causes these elements to like confront each other for dominance. I think that's really cool. I think with a stronger script, they could have maybe tightened it up a little bit, maybe showed okay, well, here's how the birds are fighting, or maybe something happens to get the birds angry at each other. But I think it's really interesting and cool, though I'd get why you would say, hey, this doesn't make any sense. Because it doesn't make any sense. It's just kind of a little vague and mystical. Nick Wolf, thank you for the super chat. Shout out to all the people who saw this movie in theaters just to get the Ancient Mew Pokemon card. The largest impact this movie has, honestly. Yes, I agree. I probably have that card somewhere. I don't know where it is. It's probably worth something. I have no idea. But I love that card so much. I remember when I was like a kid and we'd still bring Pokemon decks to school and Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks to school. People would try to pull Ancient Mew as though they knew what it did, but no one knew what it really did. So it's a great card. I love it though. So cool. Anyway, but yeah, I love the lore with the festival in Pokemon 2000. I love that component. I think it's so interesting to see with Pokemon 2000 especially how folklore plays a role, because again, a lot of the episodes of Pokemon are like Ash and company go to a new location, they encounter a new culture, a new festival, new Pokemon, new training with some trouble, whatever, in the early episodes anyway. And there's something really cool about how, with this movie, the whole thing centered on a festival, like a ritual that's been done annually. And it's like, it's kind of for the tourists, a little kitschy, but like, what happens that's so interesting is that it ends up being real to get into it, and it really, you see this sense of a dimension to the Pokemon world. I think it's so interesting. Arend Alpha Eagle, thank you for the super chat. Lugia isn't even a bird. Why should that be considered the master of Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres? I mean, it's kind of a bird. Has wings, right? I mean, it's almost it's almost like a sea dragon almost. Almost like a serpentine kind of aesthetic, but like almost like a sea serpent dragon crossed with like a bird. I think it's a cool design. I like how it's so alien and unlike a bird in so many ways. And Ho-Oh is the master of Entei Suicune Raikau, how do you say it? As Blue Bow is pointing out. Granted, Ho-Oh did create Entei Suicune and Raikou, but or Raikau, how do you say it? But I digress. I do love though how there is that component. It's got huge hands. That's true. It does have huge hands. Has big hands for slapping people who question his mastery of the other birds. Anyway, back to the video.
And it was implied that there were previous chosen ones. Does this world-ending threat happen at every festival? And Ash's name is in the prophecy, which is why he was the chosen one. So was every chosen one named Ash? Or
Only in the dub, though. That's something that's really on the nose for the dub. I will say that. But it is a plot hole in the dub. Well, it's not a plot hole. It's like the idea is that they don't realize it means Ash, the person. It's ashes and like the whole world just burns away. As they see it. And so the idea they just choose a random tourist to be the chosen one for the ritual. Which I love. I love that little component. I love how like all the townspeople are loving this LARP session, basically. It's basically Pokemon LARP. This is kind of like the Pokemon Ren Fair, really, where you go to the Ren Fair and you have the Queen of England arriving in the Sherwood Forest with Robin Hood and all his Knights of the Round Table showing up, and they're all jousting and having a merry good time. But meanwhile, it's all a bunch of college kids who are like theater college kids, basically. And you have a good time. It's fun. You have to buy into it. You thought Ash was a frozen one. Can't imagine why that would give you the impression from the movie there, Cinemageddon. Anyway, love it.
is there a different prophecy every time? 3 out of 5. There was really only one battle in this movie, and that was the birds screaming and shooting their elemental attacks for about 40 minutes, which got a little old pretty quick, so 2 out of 5. It felt like this could have been a lot shorter. There was some
Nick Wolf, thank you for the super chat. Ho-Oh made the dogs until Paradox Pokemon. That is true. That is true.
noticeable padding for time, and it really dragged on during the climax, which killed some of the enjoyment for me. 2 out of 5. Ash almost drowned and jumped in front of a few attacks, but nothing too crazy for his standards, so 3 out of 5 for his mortality.
I give him at least a 4.
It did have a really good intro song, so add a bonus point for that. Overall, Pokemon the Movie 2000 gets an 11 out of 20. Honestly, I didn't hate this one. It was just very middle of the road and filled with choices that confused me. It's really hard to follow up after the first movie, so I can't blame it for being a little...
The problem is the movie looks so beautiful. Like, shots like that really just add this element of mystery and mystique to Pokemon. I mean, look at this background. Like, I know it's probably all digital. I don't know. I'm not like an animation expert, so it doesn't have... I'm sure they can use the same hand-painted backgrounds used for the show at times, but it has a painted quality to it. It almost looks like it's brushstrokes of, like, just... There's something so ethereal and so nostalgic about shots like this for me. Like, even just the design, it's so sleek, and you see the colors, and Lugia stands out against them. Like, it's just a beautiful, angelic... Like, let me go back a little bit here.
Honestly, I didn't hate this one. It was just very middle of the road.
Like, this shot's not as interesting. It's like, light, murky background, but then...
The choices that confused me, it's really hard to follow up after
beautiful... Like, look at that transition from, like, shadow and dark to this beautiful, radiant, heavenly light. It's fantastic. I love it so much. It's so beautiful.
Movie, so I can't blame it for being a little lacking. On to the next, though. My confidence in these movies...
Also, a mistake you made. You didn't mention the song at the end credits, which was quoted by almost presidential candidate... What was his name? Oh, what was his... You know this one? You remember the story? What was his name? Oh, I gotta get this clip up. It's too rich. Pokemon 2000 song speech. Let me get this up. I heard it was from the Pokemon. Oh, yeah, Kane. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, here we go. This is it. This is what I'm talking about.
I believe these words...
Remember this one?
...came from the Pokemon movie.
He's so upset. say
The
this.
media pointed that out.
Yeah, because she's pulling up.
I'm not sure.
Herman Cain, former nominee for president, when he left from the primaries, he's a nominee. He was a Republican candidate for president. He bowed out of the race, and he had quoted the song at the end of the Pokemon 2000 in a speech, calling it like a poem. And then people in the media were like, "Hang on, that sounds kind of like the song lyrics from Pokemon the movie 2000." So here's the whole clip.
Sure who the original author is. So
It's-
don't go write an article about the poem. But it says a lot
yeah, it does.
about where I am with my wife and my family, and where we are
It's so beautiful.
as a nation.
He
Life
also died with COVID. Yeah.
can be a challenge. Life can seem impossible. It's never easy when there's so much on the line. But you and I can make a difference.
Beautiful. Yeah. So that's and then he spent the rest of his life getting burgers for Trump. Okay, on to the next part of the video. I couldn't resist that. It's so dumb. It's so, whenever anyone doesn't realize how ridiculous the American political theater is. Yeah, I mean, clearly he's not a Donna Summers fan, obviously. But yeah, no, he is. Yeah, I don't know who made it. Maybe Donna Summers, one of the most well-known figures of the 70s and 80s. Anyway,
Movies has dropped a bit, but who knows? There's still 22 left, so anything can happen. While the previous ones were fun, this felt like an actual movie. The story was engaging, the new characters felt important, there were stakes, and it was goddamn beautiful.
Yes.
The visuals for the first two movies were great, but Spell of the Unknown is like a fine arts painting, and
look at this. Look. Okay. Look at this beauty. Look at everything about this. Like the crystal curtains that look like the frills of a beautiful, elegant gown. You have these baubles that look so alien. Like it perfectly combines. You know what this kind of looks like? It looks like what would happen if you have an auto-generated image, like from AI, deliberately made by artists, like to capture the ethereal uncanniness of it. They are components that she recognizes as beautiful, like a 4-poster bed. There are these walls with these great colors, but it looks alien, as if designed by something that doesn't actually understand human nature. And that's so beautiful. And it's so hard to capture authentically. And now we have AI that can generate images from stolen assets and look like absolute garbage, like Crab Jesus talking to his crab followers. But this captures that kind of assembling bits and pieces that it doesn't understand the meaning of, in as though prompted by someone who doesn't have the input ability to explain it more thoroughly. It's so ethereal and so strange and so fae-like. I love it. Fae and fairy-like. I love it so much. The floor is crystal. This is so impractical, but it's what a kid would think is a great design for a place. Oh, it's so beautiful. Nick Wolf, thank you for the super chat. To quote Linkara, this movie is Silent Hill for kids. Silent Hill for kids. Oh yeah, it is Silent Hill for kids, basically. It's very ethereal and nightmarish, but so incredible. Oh, it's beautiful. I love it so much. This movie is incredible. If I had a nickel for every time there was an important location in a Pokemon movie that had 2 spires, I'd have 2 buckles, which isn't a lot, but it's weird it happened twice. Yeah, that's fair.
every scene. It's super impressive. The story goes as this. There's a Pokemon researcher named Spencer Hale who's trying to figure out the deal with these funky letters. Turns out the funky letters are alive and they pull him into their funky letter dimension. Not good. Oh, and he's a father too, so extra not good. Now, his daughter Molly is left all alone with the Scrabble pieces, but she knocks them all over like a fool. She gets a wish though, so she asks for her father back and the funky letters spawn an Entei. See, before he disappeared, Spencer would read Molly a story every night that featured Entei. And he would also say that he was Entei, which is like obviously a lie. I mean, come on, dude. You're not fooling anyone except for the 5-year-old girl. Get real. But yeah, she associates Entei with her dad, so that's why he's here now. Molly says she wants a whole family, so she asks for her mom, and Entei runs off to commit a first-degree felony.
Yeah.
Cut to Ash and the
I
gang
just love
enjoys
that.
the time
Entei's
with
like,
their Pokemon.
crap,
and
Mom.
oh, Ash's mom is here too. Hey. Oh shit! Entei straight up kidnaps Ash's mom and puts her in a trance so she believes that she's Molly's mom instead. So, now they gotta rescue her. I think now's a good time to mention that Team Rocket is in every single one of these movies, and they do absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
But we love them for that anyways. Sometimes
Team Rocket, I feel like, is always there, always present, but does so little of it. You too want Entei for a dad. Well, I can't blame you. And Entei's a cool... Honestly, Entei in this movie is so legitimately great. Like, yes, he is an antagonist. Obviously, he's created to be this defender of Molly's world. But he's so sympathetic, and there's such a sense of authentic love there, even though he was created as a substitute for her actual father. There's such a beautiful bit of love. I don't know. I love Pokemon 3. This is like my favorite Pokemon film. I think it's absolutely incredible.
they do small things for the plot, but there are some movies where they are literally just in the area and make jokes, and it's the best. I love it. Back to Molly, and similar from U2 in the first movie, she's got this sick as hell villain lair now. She and Ash's mom are watching the news when Ash shows up and snaps her out of the trance, but she plays it off because Molly's too stupid to notice. What an idiot. The group enters the castle and is met with an older version of Molly. She wanted to be a Pokemon trainer, so it came true in a way. This girl isn't actually Molly, it's just how she imagines herself to be when she's old enough to be a trainer. Brock battles her, making some questionable comments.
Yeah, Brock.
A cute Pokemon trainer to have a cute Pokemon.
And they move
Yeah,
on,
Brock, you gotta
walking up
chill,
these
man.
stairs that gotta be some sort of OSHA violation. They run into another Molly, and Misty's up next, leaving Ash to continue alone. Also, Meowth says
So I really love the fights with Molly and the other trainers. Like, I think in most of the Pokemon movies, these early ones especially, the later ones not so much, but the early ones, they don't give Brock and Misty enough to do. They're just kind of there, and they kind of hang around. At least with here, they all fight the big bad at some point. I say big bad in quotes, because Molly is not... She's the antagonist. She's not really a villain, necessarily, but still. I love what they give Brock and Misty to do, even if that's something for Brock to do, is hit on a 5-year-old girl. Brock, chill. Seriously. That's not cool, man. That's just weird.
line that implies that he's aware that this is all a movie.
Do you think we're gonna get a bigger part in the next movie?
Yeah.
What are the implications of this? What does this freaky cat know that we don't? Moving on, Ash makes it to Molly's room, and she finds out that she's adopted. It's a lot to drop on a vulnerable kid like this, so she understandably loses her temper a bit. Ash fights Entei and gets bodied in an absolutely beautiful set piece. And then one of the greatest scenes in cinema history took place right in front of my eyes. Early in the movie, they set up Ash's Charizard sensing that something's wrong. Later, as Ash is about to be impaled by huge-ass crystals, he flies in and saves him in the coolest way possible. I feel like I de-aged back to a toddler during this scene. I was yelping and clapping my hands like a dang baboon. What follows is a...
It's so cool. I love it. Kyla Bones, thank you for the super chat. Pokemon movies peaked with 3. Prove me wrong. I can't prove you wrong, but I can make an argument that some of the later movies are also really good. I would say the reboot movies where they basically retell Ash's story, those are pretty solid, I think. There's 3 of them so far, I think, in that continuity. They're all pretty good. Blue Bow, thank you for the super chat. The only Team Rocket scene I remember from these movies is the one in Destiny Deoxys, where they can't operate the burger machine, and I felt that. Yeah, I felt that too, actually. There's a lot of scenes in... There's a lot of Team Rocket scenes where I feel like, oh yeah, that's me. That's me right there. The failing bisexual who fails his way upward and everything. Aaron Alpha Ego, thank you for the super chat. Reminded that Meowth knows the animators didn't give him a nose in the anime series itself. Yeah, there are a couple cases where Meowth and company break the fourth wall. In fact, in Pokemon 2000, it ends with Slowking telling Team Rocket, lots of people saw what you did out there, and all of them are watching you right now. And he turns to the camera, and Team Rocket turns to the camera, and they all seem to acknowledge they're in a movie all at once. It's like this great little fourth wall break that I think is so much fun. Anyway, my spouse just sneezed, and when my spouse sneezes, it sounds like they are screaming. So I was a little worried there for a second. Anyway,
pretty lengthy, but cool as hell battle between Ash's Charizard and Entei. You ever watch something and feel like that sliver of childlike wonder finally returns to you?
Yeah, this is that right there.
So long. God, just take me back. Sadly, Charizard loses, but Molly stops Entei before he can blow his brains out. He gets brought back to reality, and everything's cool now. Shit, I forgot about the funky letters. The Unknown go a little crazy and seal everyone in the castle, leaving them to try and fight back. But Entei, being the realest one ever, sacrifices himself and forces the Unknown back to their funky letter dimension. And Spencer returns at the end, so Molly is back to the same amount of parents she had at the start. Good for her. It's just such a great movie, man. The main story isn't really about Ash, but having his mom be held captive is a great way to get him and the others involved in a way that feels natural. And the entire third act was just absolute peak. Genuine peak. Easy 5 out of 5 for the story. It was very heartwarming and pretty sad at times. Watching a little girl attempt to cope with her grief over her possibly dead parents was not what I expected to happen in a Pokemon movie, but here we are. It was good. Also, Entei is the realest Pokemon ever.
Seriously.
I need a guy like that in my life. As I said a little bit ago, the battles in this movie were great, too.
1 second. Blue Baron, thank you for the super chat. I say the first 9 movies are great. The rest, ... I would not agree with that, actually. I do not think all the first 9 movies are great. I respect your opinion, but I will tell you which ones I do not like as much. Don't worry, we'll get there. But there are a few I think are incredible, and a few I don't like as much. But hey, those 9 movies are super nostalgic for me. I watched them growing up, so I have a soft spot for all of them. Also, yeah. So, question here. This is a serious question here. Do you guys kind of get like Utena vibes from Pokemon 3? I kind of get Utena vibes from Pokemon 3. I feel like Utena kind of has a similar concept as Pokemon the third movie, though not so much the specifics, the darkness of Utena, but like the idea of this kind of reality created from our dreams that follows in cycles that we trap ourselves in. And if we are not brought out of that by a helping hand who can convince us otherwise, we are stuck in this sort of dream eternity that we create for ourselves. Just a breathtaking, beautiful movie, I think. I don't know. Maybe I might be overreading it a little bit. Yeah, this might be like me spitballing ideas, and like Rachel Lillis is in both. R.I.P. It's fair. Yeah, no. I mean, that's an idea. And again, I'm not saying that Molly is anywhere nearly as tragic as Anthe, but I digress. It's a bit of a stretch, I agree. But, what are you going to do? Look, man, if you need a stretch, just stand up, man. It's going to hurt yourself. Yeah, that's valid. I didn't say it was a good take, just an idea. It wasn't a well thought out one. We'll put it in an essay or anything like that. But yeah, it's kind of cool, I think.
And it wasn't just Ash getting the cool battles in this movie either. We actually remembered Misty and Brock this time around. Misty specifically had a super creative scuffle underwater that was very fun to watch. And any battle with Entei was just amazing. 5 out of 5. As for enjoyment, come on, you can guess. It's a 5 out of 5 again. Big shocker, I know. It's just really hard to put into words how much I enjoyed this film. So I won't. Ash's mortality gets a 4 out of 5. Would have gotten a perfect score if some orange lizard didn't come save him from getting ripped to shreds by crystals, but that's neither here nor there. At least he lives to see another day. For now. Only 3 movies in, and we got our first 20 out of 20. This is by far the best of the movies in this era. Only 1 point off the perfection score, but everything about this movie was so great, I'd be willing to give it that point just because. They cooked with this one. Maybe my loss in confidence was misguided. This just proves I shouldn't doubt them. I'm sorry, Mr. Pokemon. I'll never say anything hurtful ever again. I promise. Anyways, next up is Pokemon Forever, so let's keep this train going.
So Pokemon Forever I don't like. Hot take of the night. Pokemon Forever, not that good. Just saying.
The spirits of the future and the past can travel through time as well. And so they've all...
I feel nothing.
Yeah.
This one was a stinker. The movie starts with this basic-looking kid walking through a forest. He gets stopped by this green-haired girl who gives him this honestly really rancid piece of bread and tells him about some forest superstition bullshit. Basic kid doesn't listen and goes in anyway, but he runs into Celebi, who is being chased by a Pokemon hunter. He helps the Onion Fairy out, which leads to it tweaking and sending him into the future. We're then introduced to the villain of the movie, and I'd like you to guess what this guy's name is. You'd think it'd be something like Fraser or like Claw. I don't know, something cool, but no, it's Iron Mask Marauder. It's got these Pokeballs called Dark Balls that are basically like Master Balls, but they turn the Pokemon evil. name could use a little more work, but I respect the simplicity. His plan is to catch Celebi with
He's
one
so
and turn evil so
stupid.
he can rule the world or some junk. I don't know. Throughout this entire movie, one
Oh,
thing
that's
I and my
rough.
friends noticed was the increased use of 3D models.
Oh, that is ugly looking. I forgot how bad that is. Oh, that's hard to look at. That's so distracting. That's like Berserk 2016. Granted, it was, back in 20 years ago, so it's more excusable, but still, oh, that is rough.
Compared to the last movies. This was the early 2000s, so that technology was starting to become more prevalent in animated media. It helped speed up the production process and made some pretty cool 3D environment scenes
Yeah,
possible.
the environments
but,
are
oh
good. The
man,
Pokemon-
did it
oh,
still
that
look
mountain.
bad. Just wait,
Oh.
because it's gonna get much worse. So Ash and the gang show up, as always, and Suicune is just kind of chilling nearby, kind of weird. They arrive in this forest town called Arborville, and the green-haired girl from earlier is here, except she's
I like this Ghibli-esque, like, I know later on they have a whole treehouse town in Hoenn, but, like, I do like this visual aesthetic, and I think there's a lot of potential for it to be, like, almost... The problem I have with this movie is you think about a movie with Pokemon that takes place in the woods with nature, there's time traveling, a spirit of the forest, you're going to think about Princess Mononoke, right? You're going to think of that aesthetic, that kind of idea that the balance of nature is going to be a relevant point of discussion, that we're going to be going into, like, these deeper ideas about our relationship with time, existence, the world around us. And they don't really do that. It's just the Iron Mask Marauder throwing his dark balls at a big Celebi alien creature. Who knows? Nick Wolf, thank you for the super chat. Sammy Oak's steampunk Pokeball, though. Yes, I love Sammy's steampunk Pokeball. It is great. That is one of the peak moments of the whole movie. I love that. R.I.P. GS Ball. Yeah,
like
exactly.
super
R.I.P.
old now. It's about the same superstition, and
First look
Ash
at
does not
40
give
City,
a
that
rat's
was it.
ass, so
There
he
we
runs
go.
off. The whole dang forest starts to glow because Celebi actually came to this time period and left this boy for dead against the harsh reality of nature. They grab him and run back into town, where he wakes up and Ash instantly tries to scrap with this kid. We learn his name
love
is
that.
Sam, and he's from 40 years in the past. He reunites with Celebi, and they just kind of chill for a while. Up until this point, I was really vibing with this movie. Big fan of Celebi, so that helps. And
I
there was
do
a really
like the
cool scene
moments
with
where
this
they
lake
just have,
that
like, this
heals it,
chilling with
and then they
Celebi.
just swim and fly around.
I like these bits where they're just chilling with Celebi. That's fun. I like that. But, like, Iron Mask Marauder.
Shit. Just a real good time if you ask me. Ash and Sam also have this really sweet moment where they connect about their different time periods. But Sam pulls out that rancid ass bread, which I feel like you guys shouldn't be eating. I don't know. If y'all get food poisoning, just know I told you so. And there's a very pretty scene where a bunch of Metapod evolve and fly away while
Cinemageddon Reviews, thank you for the super chat. That CG Suicune looks great. In the GameCube game they plucked his ass from. Yeah, right? Yeah, it looks like GameCube graphics, right? Oh my goodness.
the sun rises. The vibes were just right with this one. Know what I mean? Then the second half of the movie starts. Hope you didn't forget about the Iron Mask Marauder, because he's back. He fights off the
I
main
love that
group and
2000s
gets
ass
Celebi,
font there.
catching it in one of his dark balls and turning Celebi evil. I just want to know, who made these things? Are they crazy powerful, or is Celebi just crazy weak? I feel like a mythical Pokemon shouldn't be able to be turned this easily by whatever power this dude has. I mean,
Yeah.
look at him. Personally,
He's
if it
such a
was me
dork.
getting caught in a dark ball, I just wouldn't let it happen. Period. Anyways, Celebi is evil now and transforms into one of the biggest eyesores I have ever had to look
Oh,
at
I
in
hate
13
that
whole
stupid
minutes.
thing.
I can't bash it too bad since this was the early 2000s, like I said
You
before.
can bash it.
But oh my god, who thought
I just want to point out something here, all right? Since I did connect it to Princess Mononoke before with my discussion point. You remember how in Princess Mononoke it ends with the spirit of the forest getting his head blown off and like becoming a big cosmic entity that's like all gooey and like tentacly, like a Lovecraftian nightmare creature? Put that next to the CG monstrosity, which is more horrifying. The intentionally well-crafted animated monster or this CG ugly mess. Like, there's a reason why CG has the reputation it does, because for a while in the early 2000s, it was very rough, and people kept putting it everywhere. Ugh, I hate this. I hate this one so much. It does not look good. It contrasts so much with the trees, which are clearly painted. Oh, I hate that.
it was a good idea for the climax of the movie to take place around this fucking thing.
And it's here the whole
Anytime it showed up
time.
on screen, I was just totally taken out of it. Now, that's most likely because I'm not a kid in the 2000s watching this movie, so I definitely have different standards, but still, holy shit.
No, even as a kid in the 2000s, this stood out. This didn't mesh well. Even as a kid, I'm like, oh, that's weird. Oh.
Yeah,
Oh, there it is in the background.
God, I almost didn't notice it. It blends in so well. My notes for this section are basically non-existent because all I could focus on was this thing. Evil Celebi starts ripping up the forest and just making everyone's days super difficult. Not cool, but it's fine because Suicune finally shows up to do something. It helps Brock take out this evil Tyranitar, and Onyx gets a clean home run across the whole lake. Honestly, might be the highlight of the movie for me. It's just hilarious. Ash and Sam break into Evil Celebi's dead grass mech suit and give it a hug. How sweet. Oh, there it goes. They save the day, but Celebi's like super dead. Now, here's what I thought was going to happen. Suicune purifies the lake or whatever, so they place Celebi gently in the water to revive it. And boom, happily ever after. But no, a portal opens up in the sky, and hundreds of other Celebi just come out of it. They sing a little song, and Celebi is revived. Okay, so now the day is saved, right? Oh great, it's the Iron Mask Marauder again. Can someone please get this guy a shorter name? He grabs Celebi and tries to fly away, but Ash being Ash, he grabs onto him and blows up his jetpack. He almost falls to his death, but Celebi saves him, and then Sam is sent back to his original time. The end. The one cool bit about the ending to this movie is that it's basically confirmed that Sam was Professor Oak in the past, which makes a lot of the sweet moments between him and Ash have a lot more meaning to them. But other than that, I just didn't really feel this movie. So let's grade this thing.
Okay. I'm always having trouble with your name. Zamiombine, thank you for the super chat. Celebi's eyes becoming super narrow, showing its fucking evil, was more scary than whatever that CGI model was. Yeah, exactly. You didn't have to do the CG model. You could have just had Celebi as like this, like, kind of like dull-eyed, narrow-eyed, hanging over with like the light shining around him. You could just have him be like the center of power, you know? You don't have to... If you can't make a giant monster with CG that looks good and blends with the environment, you don't have to. You're choosing to. If you don't have the technology to bring something to life, don't. It's an option. Anyway.
The story was a little boring at times, but Sam being Professor Oak with all the time travel shenanigans...
Sam being Professor Oak's the only thing that stands out.
3 out of 5. There weren't any crazy battles in this movie, so it gets a low score by default, but Onyx did hit that crazy home run, so 2 out of 5.
That's fair.
For how short this movie was, clocking in at about 75 minutes, there were a lot of moments where I just was waiting for it to be over. The whole second half with the evil Celebi and terrifying CG monster really killed it for me. So 2 out of 5. Ash wasn't in too much danger in this one. He took a few tumbles, but nothing too crazy, so 3 out of 5. Pokemon Forever gets a 10 out of 20 on the official Marker Pokemon movie grading scale. The worst of this era. I'm being a bit harsh, but let me be clear. I don't hate any of these movies. Forever was close, but I can't bring myself to hate a single one. I'm actually lying to you, but we'll get back to that later. They're all Pokemon movies at the end of the day, so they'll always be at the very least charming, even if they're pretty mid. Next up is Pokemon Heroes, so let's get into it.
Yeah, that's the thing too with Pokemon's movies. Like the worst one is just whatever. Like none of them are like terrible in my opinion. Like the worst one's all right, but it's like, it's like when you watch like a Marvel film, right? Marvel feels much worse than it really is, if it makes any sense. Like an Marvel film bothers you more than like a bad ordinary movie. And with Pokemon, an Pokemon movie bugs me more than like a good bad movie otherwise. Zimiombe, thank you for the super chat. Zimiombe, thank you for the super chat. I don't know words. I was pronouncing things. Frosted mini wheat looking ass. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah, that sums it up right there. Yeah, it would be scary that way, I think. Frosted mini wheat looking at us. There you go. Pokemon Heroes. Okay.
So, Ash kisses a Pokemon in this one. Just thought I'd let you know ahead of time. Yeah. Rip the band-aid off, you know. This movie is set in Pokemon Venice, where Latios and Latias live and protect it. They once saved the city, so now they're sworn guardians.
There's a great thing that should have been in the
Some
movie.
totally spies-ass girls are trying to find this fancy-looking ball that has some kind of secret power. Turns out, this ball is...
All right, can I ask a question here?
And protect it. They once saved the city, so now they're sworn guardians or whatever. Some totally...
What is with Annie and Oakley? Like, I kind of love their designs, but they are so over-designed. What is with this hair? Doesn't it give you a headache? Like, wouldn't that throw off your balance? Like, moving around with it? Doorways must be rough for her. I'm just saying that right now.
Spies-ass girls are trying to find this fancy-looking ball.
And yes, this is the movie that in my rewrite I said Ash's dad should have been a big bad. Because I think it would have been a good idea. Because Annie and Oakley, as much as I enjoy them, they're not like characters you remember beyond their designs, except for them clearly being... Okay, listen. Controversial opinion here. These two friends, these roommates, these besties. Come on. You know, there's no way there's no heterosexual explanation for anyone who looks like that. You know. I'm not saying they're lesbians because Bisexuality Month exists, and it is Bisexual Awareness Month. Just putting it out there. So, just saying.
Has some kind of secret power. Turns out, this ball is in the city.
Roommates.
How convenient. And Ash and the gang are there too. How convenient again. Ash meets this strange girl who turns out to be Latias. They hang out, Ash starts to get some weird feelings about a Pokemon, and the spy girls steal the fancy ball. They put it into this super weapon that's in a museum for some reason, and it's powered by Latios.
Yeah.
So everyone comes to save him. As usual, Ash's first thought is to punch the electrical cage, but it doesn't work. Maybe next time, buddy. Latios is saved, and the super weapon is stopped.
Wait, don't touch that!
Shit. Cool. Now a biblical tsunami wave is coming straight into town. But Latios sacrifices his life and dies for real. And then Ash kisses a Pokemon. This movie was actually super fun. I loved the setting, and the race and chase scenes in the water were so cool. I enjoyed the sibling relationship that Latios and Latias had too. It was very heartwarming, and it almost made me cry, so 4 out of 5. Battles are pretty much non-existent in this one, so it's hard to give it a fair score, but...
Baichi Apiadera, I think it's Super Chat. Ant. Throwing shade on big anime hair. She's just a blonde, happy person who loves her hair being in a cute design. You're correct. You know what? You're right. I was wrong. Yeah, that's correct. That's a fair point. I was wrong for criticizing her fun double beehive hair. And you know what? It's a cute design. I love Annie and Oakley's designs. They're both really cute looking, and I kind of dig them. They're cool. I dig their vibe, but their vibe is also extremely gay. Let's be fair. Let's rip the Band-Aid off now. They're both valid in how gay they are. Also, Ash. Let's be fair. Ash did not kiss Latias. Latias kissed Ash, which opens the door to several more questions. Ash is too oblivious to know anyone is crushing on him. It's Latias who went after Ash, and then Ash never chased after Latias back. So, what am I saying? I'm saying this puts a pin in every single ship with Ash. He's too oblivious to know anyone is crushing on him. Just putting it out there. I have friends like that. They'll go out with them to a place, maybe a bar, a club, someone's house, and then someone hits on them completely for the entire night, and they have no clue. They just think, oh, this person's being really nice to me. Meanwhile, they're hitting on them extensively. I'm just saying.
The chase scene I mentioned before with the huge Aerodactyl barreling through the city canals
So cool.
was such a fun idea that I'll count it as a battle. 3 out of 5. Enjoyment gets a 5 out of 5 easily. You might be noticing a trend that the enjoyment score is either really low or a perfect score. No in between. Don't worry, the trend will continue. Ash was relatively safe through this one, only being in immediate danger a few times, though the times he was in danger were pretty scary, and he basically died for a few minutes, so 3 out of 5. And finally, the theme song was immaculate for this one, so it gets a bonus point. Pokemon Heroes receives a 16 out of 20. With that,
I think Pokemon Heroes is interesting because it is such a lower key movie. Like, it's a low stakes Pokemon movie. It's not as high stakes as, say, because earlier films, like, I would say Pokemon 3 isn't high stakes, but it feels more epic than it is. More epic just by the nature of the reality warping and all that. Pokemon 1, 2, and 4 are really the more... reality itself, or at least a large area of the world, can be in danger from these Pokemon. Pokemon Heroes, until like the very end with the biblical tsunami, feels very low-key. Catcast Reviews, thank you for the super chat. Hot take, there are no heterosexual members of Team Rocket. Prove me wrong. Okay. I got one for you. Giovanni. I think Giovanni is the only heterosexual in Team Rocket, and he's so straight he doesn't notice that everyone he's hired are extremely gay. I think like Giovanni's like the one guy, he's like the straightest person in the gay club. Like he came to the gay bar because he wanted a drink and doesn't notice that everyone else around him is like in leather. Even after he leaves, he'll like just sit there, enjoy his drink, chat to someone, and then leave, and it will not pick up on any of the signs around him. He could like pass by a Madonna beatbox with like rainbow flags all over the windows, and he'll be like, huh, I wonder what IPAs they have on tap. That would be Giovanni. No, actually, he wouldn't order an IPA. He'd order like red wine he'd be the guy who orders a bottle of red wine at the bar, at like the dive gay bar, and like not pick up on the fact that this is a weird thing to order at a gay bar. I love this reality we're crafting for Giovanni right now. He would do that though. You know he would do that. Giovanni is too camp to be straight. Maybe, but like he's camp straight. Also, don't forget, most of Giovanni that we see in the anime, it's Meowth's fantasies about Giovanni. So it's Giovanni's heterosexual stagnation through the filter of Meowth's not heterosexual perspective. I love that. Yeah. Baichi Apiadora, thank you for the super chat. Apiadera, sorry. Giovanni is the straight guy who only hires queer people because they get shit done. Change my mind. I'm not going to change your mind. That's probably it right there, actually. Arend Alpha Eagle, thank you for the super chat. Giovanni, 200% straight? Then explain Team Rainbow Rocket from Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Okay, in fairness, yeah, I can't justify that one. That one's very gay. But in fairness, he was the most heterosexual of the whole rainbow teams in that game. Anyway, or am I mixing up with I'm not Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. I'm mixing up with was it Alpha Ruby, Omega Sapphire, Alpha Ruby? Was that it that had the rainbow teams? I forget which one was which. Anyway, I know it's one of those two. Yeah, Rainbow Rocket's alternate reality, where they win. Yeah, exactly.
We're out of the Gens 1 and 2 movies and moving into Gen 3. Not quite out of the classic era yet, though.
Okay. I have mixed feelings on this one.
Jirachi Wishmaker was pretty inoffensive. Not perfect, but at least it didn't feel like I wasted 81 minutes of my life.
Yeah.
Basically, there's this circus guy named the Great Butler, terrible name by the way, who brings a carnival to a random desolate area where Ash and the gang also happen to be. Sadly, Misty died off screen, so May and Max were hired as her replacement.
That joke has not aged well, man. I'm sorry. It was kind of funny a month ago. It's not that funny anymore. Nick Wolf, thank you for the super chat. Giovanni is so straight that the man wears an orange business suit on the regular in the anime and never once questions his choice in style. Yeah, exactly. He's very heterosexual. See? Also, I will say this. This is the one movie I saw the least of when I was a kid, so I don't have a strong feeling about it.
Butler has this rock that Jirachi is inside of, and Max becomes its best friend over the course of like an hour or two. I don't know why they gave this rare meteor to a random kid, but whatever. Turns out Butler actually wanted Jirachi's power to revive Groudon because he tried in the past, but was publicly shamed and has never been the same since. His girlfriend Diane isn't having it, so she takes the gang cross-country to return where she and Butler found the Jirachi rock. Butler somehow got there before them and set up a whole villain contraption, so he gets his hands on Jirachi and summons Kaiju Groudon, practically killing everything in the vicinity.
See, this is what I'm talking about.
They inflate Groudon.
See, this is what I meant when I was talking about, like, the Spirit of the Forest from Prince Mononoke, like the weird Lovecraftian thing. This is what I was talking about. More of this. I don't love this movie all that much, but this was cool. I like this. More of this.
And sing a really, really good song to turn Jirachi back into a rock.
Stupid song.
Speaking of this song, May kept humming it throughout the whole fucking movie, and someone please get this girl some singing lessons, and Brock too. Like I said, this movie was fine. Though I did like the relationship between Max and Jirachi. It was very cute, so 4 out of 5.
I don't
Climax
like
of the
Max.
movie was pretty
Max is
much
kind of
one
annoying.
long battle,
I don't know.
and it was
Sorry.
alright. The Groudon inflation was a little weird though, 3 out of 5. Enjoyment, as expected, was pretty high at a 4 out of 5. It was just a nice time overall, and Ash barely got in any danger, so 2 out of 5, bringing the final score to 13 out of 20. Now,
I like how Absol was in it. That was kind of cool. I have a strong feeling about the Jirachi movie, so I can't really offer much commentary on it. I saw it maybe once or twice growing up. Like, I felt it was very, like, eh. I don't like Max, though. Like, Max annoys me on a profound level. May's alright, but Max annoys me. I don't like Max.
the next movie was one of my favorites as a kid, not because I remember the intense and impactful story or the expertly crafted characters, but because it's got Rayquaza and Deoxys in it, and I like them a lot because they're super cool, so yeah.
I remember when I first saw this movie, I couldn't stand it. Hot take. When I first saw this movie, I hated it so much. I mean, I don't know why. I can't even explain to you why me as a kid hated this movie so much. It really annoyed me. And I can't explain why. Like, I've watched it, like, since then. Like, in college, a bunch of us end up watching a bunch of these old Pokemon movies. And I liked it just fine in college. But when I was a teenager, well, not a teenager, I was like, what? I was like, what, 11, 12? No, I was like, this was probably like 12 or 13 or so. Yeah. Like, when this came out, I was 12 and 13, I hated it so much. I was so angry by it. And I can't explain why. I don't feel any... I like it. It's a fun movie. But as a kid, I was so upset by it.
The first 15 minutes of this movie are fucking crazy,
Yeah.
man. Deoxys comes down from space, and Rayquaza is not happy. They have this crazy-ass fight while some kid gets Lion King so hard that he gets irreversible trauma for the rest of his life. No biggie. Rayquaza eventually comes out on top, and Deoxys is defeated. Or is it? Fast forward some years, and Ash and the gang arrive in LaRue City, and guess who's back? Though, before Deoxys arrives, Ash meets the traumatized kid whose name is Troy. He's got a few screws loose and has an imaginary friend that everyone around him just agrees to pretend is real out of
That's
pity. The
kinda
city goes
weird,
on
but-
lockdown for the...
I do love Officer Jenny with, like, her, like, Evangelion battle station setup. Also, Kyle Lundgren, thank you for the super chat. That is incredible. Annie and Oakley are obviously from Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, or Pokemon Coliseum. It's the only way I can explain her hair. Yeah, that's valid, actually. That's not a bad theory. I kind of like that theory, actually. That's pretty good. I'm not gonna lie.
usual alien invasion, but the main cast
That's
gets
good.
stuck
I think it's
inside
funny.
and is forced into an apocalyptic scenario. There's a force field around the city, and for some reason it won't deactivate, so they're trapped for the foreseeable future. Rayquaza, though, is not happy. Again. He breaks through the force field, and there's this sick-as-hell city fight between him and Deoxys. Turns out, the reason Deoxys is attacking the city is to find its friend, which it lost during its original battle with Rayquaza. And double turns out, its friend was Troy's imaginary friend the whole time. Chill Deoxys, as I've dubbed it, is born and meets with the original one so they kiss or something. Then the citywide security system goes AWOL and starts destroying everything. I don't know. Troy overcomes his trauma, and Rayquaza learns to stop being racist, so pretty solid messages all around. I really enjoyed the setting and Troy's whole character arc. Their connection to the battle between Deoxys and Rayquaza was super cool too. 4 out of 5.
I enjoy the fight with Rayquaza. I think Rayquaza is such a cool Pokemon. I mean, hot take. Rayquaza, pretty cool Pokemon. I know. Controversial opinions we're sharing here. But no, I love the fight with him and Deoxys. I think the one problem I think as a kid I had was that watching it, I kept thinking like, oh my god, Deoxys, he's gonna be like Cell from Dragon Ball Z, because like you can blow him up and you can regenerate as long as the nucleus in his head or something's intact, or as long as the gemstone in his chest. Oh god, he's a crystal gem. Oh god, Deoxys is a crystal gem. They're crystal gems. They're crystal gems. You can poof the rest of their body, but they come back because the gem is intact. We've solved it, people. We figured out the secret. Oh my goodness, this is gonna be a fun night. Anyway,
Anyone watching this video to understand that there is one trope that I love more than anything in this world. You take two extremely powerful creatures or entities, put them in a big city, and let them go at it.
Yeah,
just
it's
peak.
fun.
5 out of 5. Just like the last movie, enjoyment was a solid 4 out of 5. The whole security going crazy bit was a little odd near the end, but not enough to kill the vibe. Finally, Ash was fairly safe, so nothing too crazy happened. 3 out of 5, pretty standard. Destiny Deoxys gets a 16 out of 20.
that's fair,
This one
I
was
think.
fun. Like, I feel like I could say that about most of these, but it'd still be true no matter what. We got 2 more movies in the classic era left, so let's blast through them real quick.
Okay, this one I really like. I really like this movie.
I've never been to a Renaissance fair, so I don't know if this
What?
is normal, but do you usually have to go on a world-saving quest as a part of the overall experience?
Yeah,
No?
always.
Man, what's the fucking point then? So
Part
this
of the
movie
fun.
is basically Pokemon Fire Emblem, but no, not that one. In the past, there was a hero named Sir Aaron who locked away his partner Lucario to protect him from a war. Now, in the present, Ash wins a
I love
battle at
this
this
so
Ren fair,
much.
so he gets to LARP as the Aura Guardian for the day. When Aaron sealed away Lucario, he went to this big tree and solved climate change with the help of Mew. But it's finally wearing off, so Ash and the gang, and Lucario, have to go to the tree and figure it out. And while this is happening, Pikachu and Meowth practically get kidnapped by Mew, so they're all chilling at the big tree too. The group runs into some Reggies. They explore Beta Area
As you do.
0, Ash reunites with Pikachu, and then these weird red Pokemon things consume and kill everyone. Like, I had to look it up while watching. These are basically white blood cells that fight and kill anything unknown to the tree. So everyone who got ate up was 100% not living. Oh, sorry, did I forget to mention that this tree is about to self-destruct? Yeah, so Lucario does the same thing Aaron did and sacrifices himself to stop the tree from becoming a nuke. And the day is saved. They really gotta stop killing these Pokemon, man.
Yeah, seriously.
Take it anymore. This movie was super engaging throughout the whole thing. Lucario and Aaron's story was
It's a great movie. Anyway, Nick Wolf, thank you for the super chat. Hot take, Mimikyu, only good Pikachu clone because self-aware. Yeah, agreed. I love Mimikyu's insecurities with like how they want to be loved and they're so scared of hurting people with their appearance. I love it so much. This movie is really good. I think it's a really good fantasy film in terms of Pokemon. I love it so much. I love the LARPing element. I love the... It's the only time I thought the Reggies were interesting because the Reggies I think are kind of lame, personally. Hot take again, but love it.
was super tragic, and seeing how Lucario coped with the world around him changing was really cool and really sad at the same time. And him going out the same way Aaron did at the end, it was great. Can't even joke about it. It's a 5 out of 5.
Yeah.
But the battles, there weren't really any except for the battle in the intro. They ran from the Reggies for a bit, but I'd be hard-pressed to call those battles, so 3 out of 5.
Yeah.
Slap another 5 out of 5 on that enjoyment scale. I don't care if it's predictable. It's the truth. I'll be damned if you try to take away my God-given right to enjoy a movie made for children. Can a grown man not have a good time while watching my childhood hero be swallowed by a floating lava creature? Oh, and 5 out of 5 for that, by the way.
Yeah.
He was like super dead. Also, peak theme song, best in the series, bonus point. Lucario and the Mystery of Mew gets a 19 out of 20. It was
Well
a banger.
deserved.
That's all I gotta say. Now, time for the final movie of the classic era, Pokemon Ranger and the Temple of the Sea.
I don't have a strong feeling in this one, I'll be honest with you.
This one
Regice.
was
I know
alright.
it's
We're introduced
Regice,
to possibly
Regice,
the
whatever.
best Pokemon character ever, Jack Walker, who's a Pokemon Ranger. He steals this egg from some pirates and fucks off. But the egg turns out to be a Manaphy egg, and it imprints on May, who was taking care of the egg while they were being chased by the pirate guy named Phantom.
I love
they gotta
pirates.
return Manaphy to the
I'm
underwater
so
sea temple
biased.
because he's the prince of the sea. I doubt it. But it only shows up during an eclipse. May gets super attached to Manaphy over the course of the journey there, so we all know what's gonna happen next. After arriving at the temple, everything goes wrong and it starts to flood. This whole section where the thing is sinking made me genuinely stressed, like I was in the same situation myself.
Again,
So,
great
points for
animation, I
immersion,
love
I
that.
guess. Ash tries to save the day, but drowns. Just kidding. He gets an air bubble from the power of friendship and then goes Super Saiyan, which was like, alright, cool, but also, what the hell, man? Then Kyogre shows up and kills the pirate guy, so Manaphy leaves to go be Prince or whatever. Oh, and everyone's Super Saiyan now. Not a bad movie, but it did drag at some points. Jack Walker carried the entire film,
Yeah.
if I'm being honest. Anytime he was on screen was an absolute joy, but even his captivating charisma can't save rough pacing. 3 out of 5. Even though
Pirate,
Super
though.
Saiyan Ash was a little out of nowhere, it did make for a pretty cool final battle, and all the ocean Pokemon fucking up Phantom's ship was pretty funny, so 3 out of 5. Just like the 2 previous ratings, enjoyment was also very middle of the road at a
This guy is really One Piece villain coded, I think. He's really One Piece. He's really like a One Piece villain, which I love. Listen, okay? I'm a simple man. You give me pirates, I'm happy. Just saying. More pirates. More pirates.
3 out of 5. Not terrible, but not at the same level of that childlike wonder as the rest, you know? And as for Ash's mortality, he almost drowned, but it wasn't long enough for him to get, like, fully killed.
He
Just
didn't die hard
unconscious.
enough.
4 out of 5. Pokemon Ranger and the Temple of the Sea gets a 13 out of 20. A pretty lackluster end of the classic era, if you ask me. Thankfully for you, though, and regrettably for me, we still have 16 movies to go over. But I'm gonna save that one for part 2. So, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. It's a little bit different from my first video, but, you know, trying out different things, see what I like, see what I don't like.
If you haven't seen the rest of Marker's channel, you should watch it. His stuff is really good. I will not play the next 2 videos. You really should watch it for yourself. It's fantastic, and he goes into some details that I have forgotten about with Pokemon, so watch it. Watch all of them. I'm going to be switching over to video 2 next, which is going to be a shorter one. But before I get started, I am going to run and use the bathroom real quickly. I'll let this play out right now. I'll be right back, everyone. Any last questions before I jump in? Nope, I'll be right back. So I shall return in a few moments. Don't worry, I'll be back. Okay, I've returned. Sorry for the wait, y'all. Hope no one left without me coming back. Sure, a couple of guys did, but that's okay. That's okay. Okay, sorry for the slight delay. But this next video is by JPR, who is a bit more of a well-established figure in the Pokemon commentary community, with almost 250 subscribers, 243, I think, specifically. But still. For Anthony, it's pirate. For me, Swordman is fire. That's fair. Temple of Sea felt like how hard it was in water park as a child and felt the vibes. I like the water park vibes of that. It's fun. You know, stay Pokemon Puzzle League. I love Pokemon Puzzle League. It's a fun game. Okay, so JPR's video here is on the best gym leaders in every. Actually, you know what? No, we're not doing best. That's too easy. We're too positive on this stream. Let's be negative. JPR is now going to be the worst Pokemon gym leader in every region. Let's be negative. Let's be unpleasant. Let's ruffle some feathers here. Who's the worst? Blue Baron, thank you for super chat. Are you surprised the Pokemon movies slowed down? I'm not surprised. I think at a certain point they have to do something a little different. I'd rather them slow down and take their time with each one more than if they just release one after the other. So, I don't know. Anyway, let's dive into the worst Pokemon gym leaders in every region. I pulled a fast one on you. Let's keep going. Again, very well-established figure in the Pokemon community.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. It's JPR, and welcome back to another video. Gym leaders are meant to serve as the 8 major tests of strength for any trainer on their way to the Pokemon League. So, why are so many of them so gosh darn bad at their jobs?
Yeah.
There are people in the McDonald's drive-thru who take their profession more seriously than these gym leaders do. And today, I am exposing each and every one of them for the frauds that they really are. But JPR, you might be saying, shouldn't the worst gym leader be a really easy thing to find? Aren't you just going to pick the first gym leader from every region? An astute question, my dear viewers, and the answer to that is no. But it's possible. What I look for in a bad gym leader is one who really doesn't know how to utilize their type to their fullest potential by not accounting for weaknesses, or gym leaders who simply don't have a good ace Pokemon to carry them. Take a look at Brock and Misty, for example. Yes, they're the first two gym leaders of their region, but Brock's Onix is a massive obstacle in Pokemon Yellow, and Misty has to Starmie in every game she's in. Possibly one of the hardest early game Pokemon to fight against. Even in Let's Go, where it has Scald? Isn't this game for the children? So, no, first gym leaders are not an automatic lock. If anything, I'm probably going to be more strict against the later gym leaders because, quite frankly, they should know better. Yeah. And it's worth...
I always like the theory that the gym leaders adjust their teams depending on how strong the trainer is when they enter it. You know that one? Because like obviously when we match them later on, they all have really strong Pokemon. I like the theory that the gym leaders have to like you come into the gym leader and you'll go, okay, to level 30 trainer. Oh, I got to adjust my team for the right challenge, you know, or whatever it is. Oh, you only have 3 badges. Okay, I'll adjust my team for that. I like that theory, though I wish they could be implemented maybe in some way, maybe a little more. I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, I'm babbling.
Noting if a gym leader appears in multiple games, then I'll just have to average their fights together to find the overall worst. And for the sake of simplicity, we're talking about each gym leader's first fight in the games where they are battleable before the post-game. So, no Heart Gold and Soul Silver Kanto gym leaders, no Black 2 and White 2 World Tournament teams, and no rematches in general, just to close off any loopholes. So starting us off in Kanto, because where else? The first gym leader I turned to was Blaine, because having a team with 2 unevolved Pokemon at level 40 is not a great look. But surprisingly, Pokemon Yellow and Let's Go both turn him into kind of a boss. In these games, all of his Pokemon are fully evolved. Well, Magmortar doesn't exist in Let's Go, just go along with it. But when I looked at the very next gym leader, I was pretty appalled at what I saw. Yes, you heard right, I'm talking about Giovanni.
Giovanni's getting called out today, it seems like. Arind Alpha Eagle, I keep saying Ego, sorry about that. Eagle, thank you for the super chat. They do that in the Pokemon Origins anime miniseries. Yeah, they do, and it's really good. I love that little touch where when they face Brock, he pauses by the Pokeballs going, okay, hang on, let me choose the right one. Here we go. I love that little subtle detail. I think it's really cool. I think it's cool. I don't know. I like that. It shows the gym leaders are testing their trainers as opposed to going all out, you know?
In Red and Blue, as well as Fire Red and Leaf Green, he is downright terrible for an 8th gym leader. Virtually no coverage on any of his Pokemon who are known for having great move pools. In Fire Red and Leaf Green, his Rhydon even gets nerfed down to a Rhyhorn because, oh no, kids can't fight against a Pokemon with 2 double weaknesses, how are they gonna win? And while his movesets are substantially improved in Let's Go, he still doesn't have a ton of great options against water types. Though I appreciate him having Mega Horde on 2 Pokemon that deal with grass types, even though almost all of them in Kanto are part poison, so it doesn't really mean that much. But Giovanni's saving grace is Yellow, where he actually is just as terrifying as he hypes himself up to be. Both of his Nidos carry Thunder for water types, 4 of his Pokemon have Earthquake, Rhydon is a scary high level 55, and Persian serves as a great wildcard Pokemon. Had Ash fought this version of Giovanni instead of Jesse and James, I don't know if he was ever getting that 8th badge. So the real pick for Kanto is Erica. Despite having an entire team of fully evolved Pokemon, well, at least prior to...
Even when I was doing the Pokemon rewrite video, Erica kind of stood out as the least impressive one. There's something about Erica that's so underwhelming. I couldn't even tell you what it is. Just kind of weird. I don't know.
To the introduction.
I think it's because her team is entirely grass type, and the most popular starter in Pokemon Red and Blue was Charizard. So people just blew right past her. But even by then, you can get I don't know.
Of Tangrowth. Her team is really not as impressive as it looks. They're all virtually useless against flying, poison, and fire type Pokemon who show up in spades in the Kanto region. And in Pokemon Yellow, she's pretty much the only gym leader to get hard nerfed. Keeping her in line with her anime incarnation, her Vileplume gets devolved into a Gloom. And her level spike certainly isn't on par with the rest of Kanto's gym leaders. In fact, with the sole exception of Let's Go where her Vileplume knows Moonblast, in every Kanto-based game, she only ever uses moves that are Grass, Poison, and Normal type. She just has way too many weaknesses to be playing around with move pools that bad. Surge has a similar problem with coverage, but at least that Raichu poses a threat with its incredibly powerful attacks. Moving into Johto, while it's easy to clown these
so far I'm with them. That is the worst one, I think.
guys for their remarkable lack of Pokemon diversity and having mostly Kanto Pokemon, you have to admit these guys are pretty stout. With aces like Scyther, Miltank, Gengar, and Kingdra, we can safely say that this squad is pretty up to code.
Now, I haven't seen this video yet. I'm gonna guess and say it's either Faulkner, Bugsy, or Chuck. It's gonna be one of those three, I think.
So with that being said, who sticks out like a sore thumb? Well, as much as I would love to say Faulkner for his horribly underwhelming team, Pidgeotto is kind of wild to have at such a low level, and again, I can't hold him to the same standard as later gym leaders. Which is why my pick for this region is Price.
Ooh, really?
His Pokemon themselves aren't half bad. As far as Ice types go, aside from Jinx, this is probably the best lineup he could have had in Gen 2. But where the ice cracks is in his movesets. Neither Seal nor Dugong carry a single Water-type move to deal with Fire-type foes.
Blue Baron, thank you for the super chat. Erica's dub voice was the same as Nanami and Utna. Okay, I forgot that detail. I forgot that. That's funny. That's funny. But like, it's Utna. Listen, we can never escape Utna. One day I will make an Utna video. I don't know when that will be. I don't know what it's going to be about. But I do want to talk about Utna at some point because it's such a great series. I do want to rewatch it though. I know Sai's basically made her entire channel about making Utna content, but I digress. But no, yeah, like this is like really good stuff. I love Utna, but that's funny. I forgot that detail. I mean, half of the Pokemon cast is in Utna and like a few other voice actors who are just getting their start there. I love that. I love Utna. Anyway, Price.
And Piloswine is flat out embarrassing regardless of the generation.
Nick Wolf, thank you for the super chat. Hot take, Jinx is way past due in evolution. Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, so do you guys remember the episode of Pokemon where it turns out that the Jinxes are all like Santa's helpers in the North Pole? Anyone remember that? Am I the only one that remembers the Pokemon Christmas episode where Jesse and James try to kidnap Santa Claus? I love it. I love it so much. It's so goofy.
In Gen 2, it doesn't have a single...
Sai is known for Utna and pool hopping. Yeah, that sums it up right there. That dude in the Suede. I haven't talked to him in a while. He's a good guy. He actually was really helpful when I started getting my channel set up. He was so kind to me. I asked him for advice. He gave me a lot of really good advice. He's a good guy. I need to talk to him again. Hopefully soon. He's a good man. If you get a chance to watch that dude in the Suede, watch him. He's fantastic.
Single ground type attack,
a lot of respect
and it has to rely on ice despite how low this Pokemon's special attack stat is. And in Gen 4, despite ice no longer being a special type, they still keep Blizzard in its moveset. And while it finally has a ground type move, it's Mud Bomb! The only way this thing could feasibly give your team trouble is if it sets up Hail and just abuses evasion with Snow Cloak, but also if that happens, you were just flat out unprepared. Even solo Meganium users should have no problem tackling this thing, and that's saying something. In the Hoenn region, it's hard for our pick to be anybody but Watson.
You know,
this guy...
Watson.
His teams are flat out terrible in both Ruby and Sapphire and the remakes. It's as easy as having a single ground type. You do that, you'll win. No problem. Even Ash swept this guy in the anime, which never happens. Yes, I know Anapoke fans, Pikachu was supercharged because it came into contact with a Mecha Raikou, and that's why the battle was so easy. Yes, I watched the episode, leave me alone. Now, I know Emerald Watson is a considerable step up compared to his other two incarnations, as simply adding Manectric to the squad makes it an infinitely tougher fight. But even then, I'd still say Watson is arguably the worst of all the Hoenn gym leaders, solely for his lack of coverage. If you roll up to Watson's gym with a little bit of pocket sand, you will ruin this guy's entire week. Yes, Manectric can set up with Roar and launch off some pretty decently strong quick attacks.
Arend Alpha Eagle. I will get it right one day. Thank you for the super chat. Hotter take, I never saw Jinx as a counterpart to Magmar or Electabuzz. Those two aren't psychic type, and Jinx is female only. Jinx makes much more sense as a counterpart of Mr. Mime. You are correct. You are thoroughly correct. Magmar and Electabuzz, I feel like, is a good... They like feel like opposite ends of a spectrum. Jinx and Mr. Mime feel like that too to an extent, but I do see Jinx in that same family at least. Mr. Mime just feels like he's such a weird outlier. Like, even when I was a kid, just getting into Pokemon, I was always like, wait a second. Mr. Mime, is this like a real Pokemon? Are we just making up names now? Like, what's going on here? Mr. Mime's interesting, though. I like Mr. Mime. Anyway.
But again, if you let that happen, that's on you. Get your Marshtomp, get your Graveler, bada bing, bada boom. You should be done in 3 minutes. This guy is just waiting out his days until retirement and then he can finally start collecting Social Security. That's all he's here for. Okay, so Sinnoh is maybe the only region where the first gym leader is a feasible choice. Because every gym leader gets a pretty massive upgrade in both
Rourke is really adorable in this. I'm just pointing this out there. Rourke is like, I love like the glasses, the hair, the whole aesthetic. I like that. It's really cool. Did I mention it's Bisexual Awareness Month? I'm just pointing it out there. I like his whole aesthetic. He has a cool thing going on.
Platinum and BDSP, except Rourke. Across every game, the only major change is that he gets bulldozed on his Cranidos in the remakes, but like, just use Headbutt. It's gonna do more damage anyway. Also, this has to do more with Sinnoh starters than him. Like, yeah, all 3 of them should just wipe the squad out. Yes, Cranidos looks threatening with base 125 attack at level 14, but all you gotta do is tank 1 hit as Piplup or Turtwig, not flinch, and then just hit it back and you win. Or if you have Chimchar, it should be a Monferno by now. Just use Mach Punch and it's GG. But you know, with...
Okay, we're good. Okay. Okay. Okay, listen. I was not flustered, okay? I'm not flustered. I'm not, okay? I'm not, alright?
Or Turtwig, not flinch, and then just hit it back and you win. Or if...
Okay, no, I'm not blushing. You're blushing. I'm not blushing at all. Okay, let's keep going.
If you have Chimchar, it should be a Monferno by now. Just use Mach Punch and it's GG. But you know, with bad RNG, this fight could feasibly go wrong for Piplup or Turtwig users, ironically the 2 types who are supposed to beat Rourke. So you could also give it to Byron. What can I say? Talent does not run in this family. Back to the mines with you.
Wow.
While his Steelix puts in a bit of work and runs Thunderfang for coverage, and Bronzor actually whips out a pretty interesting Trick Room strategy in BDSP, it's not enough. Bastiodon is just a terrible ace, and although...
See, I feel nothing about you as much. I don't feel as much about you, but you... Okay.
They tried to cook with its moveset in the remakes, they forgot that it has less special attack than a newborn baby. So even your water type should be shrugging off those Thunderbolts with ease.
I mean, yeah,
I'm sorry,
but not as
you
much.
just can't have a defensive Pokemon as an ace if you're a gym leader. You will lose the war of attrition against the player 10 times out of 10. The more I think about it, the more I would say it's Byron because you could at least feasibly lose to Rourke with bad luck. With Byron, has anybody ever lost to Byron? Anyone?
No.
Ever? Actually, don't comment. If you have lost, then you will probably get trolled in the comments, and the feds will definitely take your trainer card away. Unova is certainly a hard one to pin down.
Oh,
though.
Unova,
I mean,
okay.
even Berg, a bug-type gym leader, poses a decent threat in challenge
They're all
mode as
pretty good,
Leavanny carrying
Unova.
Aerial Ace to deal with Pignite and other bug types who may
Unova,
prove
Unova,
problematic.
they're all
Marlin is maybe a little bit of a flop by 8th gym leader standards, as he doesn't carry any ground-type moves to deal with electric types, and only has man-time to deal with grass types in challenge mode. But even then, it's hard to say that he's worse than Bryson. Sure, Bryson unfortunately doesn't get the benefit of challenge mode helping him out, since he's retired from his gym leader position in Black 2 and White 2. But even if normal Black and White had a challenge mode, I don't think he'd be any better. Because these are literally the only ice types available in Unova outside of Kyurem, who I highly...
Blue Bow, thank you for the super chat. I'm usually all about DILFs, but Byron is a 0. Yeah, you know, that's fair. Listen. DILFs are great, okay? DILFs are great. But, like, there's something to be said about, like, it's the hair and glasses do something to me. I'm not gonna lie. Someone wears glasses, it's just a cute, I'm not blushing. I'm really not blushing at all. No, I'm not at all blushing. Okay. I'm not flustered. I'm not flustered. I'm not. Okay? I'm not. Don't chat. No. Okay.
highly doubt they'd add to his team. Actually, more than highly doubt. They just wouldn't.
Lord Byron.
And unfortunately for Bryson, Unova Ice types are terrible. Vanillish, meh. Cryogonal dies to literally any physical attack in the game. And Beartic, yeah, like Byron, you can't have a slow, tanky Pokemon as an ace. Especially one with that many weaknesses. I'll give him credit for running Brine at least, but as slow as Beartic is, I doubt he'll even get to use it in most scenarios.
Byronic.
And maybe
Yes,
worst of
you're
all,
right.
because
It is
Bryce is a show
Byronic.
for big TM, he can't even use Ice Beam. He has to run Frost Breath on everything, which is only 40 base power in Gen 5. When you put the puzzle pieces together, it becomes much more apparent why he gave this up for an acting career. He was stuck in the wrong line of work. Moving into Kalos, there are certainly
Here we go,
many
Kalos.
gym leaders who we could expose as the worst.
I don't think
Ramos
Kalos had a
certainly
lot of
comes to
great
mind
gym
because, hey, when making these lists, what grass-type gym leader doesn't come to mind? But honestly, between Acrobatics and his Jump Fluff to deal with bugs, and Bulldoze and his Go-Goat for fire types, he does have options. It's certainly not the best team in the world, but he is at least somewhat prepared. Karina also earns a dishonorable mention for the fact that 2 of her 3 Pokemon, including her ace Hawlucha, aren't even able to touch Ghost-type Pokemon. I feel like as a fighting gym leader, you gotta be better prepared than that. But if you don't have a Ghost-type, then yeah, Hawlucha is pretty threatening. But for the second straight generation, the worst gym leader title goes to our ice user, Wolfric.
Well, Ice
Okay,
gets- is
honestly,
just
with
terrible
Bryson,
in this,
I
isn't
can
it?
at least say, you know what? You tried. You only had 3 ice types in the entire region to work with, and you did what you could. With Wolfric, man did not try at all. There
Wait,
are
so in Kalos, that's half of these are ice gyms. Cinemageddon Reviews, thank you for the super chat. Imagine saying you're not flustered and believing yourself when you say it. We see you, Ant. You ain't slick. Lol. Okay, listen, chat. We have a conversation about calling me out on my bullshit. This is not one of those times, or maybe one of those times. Who knows? I don't know. I respect the fact that you can call me out and criticize me about anything, especially my bad taste in people. Yeah, let's keep going. I'm not gonna finish that sentence.
12 fully evolved ice types in the
I have types. Okay, I have types, and when it comes to fictional characters, I'm like, my types are obvious. There are many types, and they're sometimes self-contradictory, but they are types. Also, wow, half of these gym leaders are ice types.
Kalos Pokedex, and with the sole exception of Delibird, he probably chose the worst possible 3. Abomasnow is a walking fire hazard,
Yeah.
and for some reason only carries these 3 moves. No Earthquake, no Bulldoze,
Nope.
nothing. Cryogonal, we already touched on why you're trash, but explain to me what exactly you're doing. Sure, Flash Cannon beats rock types, and that's it. That's all you got. But hoog boy, Avalugg, this is the real kicker. What have we said the last 2 generations? You can't have a bulky Pokemon with a lot of weaknesses as your ace. Well, Avalugg is the worst possible iteration of that. Not only is he a pure ice-type tank, but he's only a physical tank. His special defense is paper thin. It's not an exaggeration to say that Ember could one-hit KO this Pokemon.
Yeah, that's, like,
this
really
Pokemon
bad with
is
his weaknesses.
hot garbage, like worse than Beartic somehow. Why are you running Crunch? Are you scared of psychic types? Why? Like, sure, Delphox exists, but no Delphox in the world is getting hit by a Crunch when it can just tap you lightly with its wand. This
Yeah,
is the
that's
same
a bad
reason why I have
decision.
no respect for Gita. You guys are trying to cook with a block of ice. That's not how cooking works. Please stop using this garbage Pokemon. Anyway, Alola
that's a
has
bad
no
tip.
gym, so I can take this moment to calm down from my Avalugg rant and also remind you to subscribe to the channel. We're almost at 250,000 subscribers, and most people watching these videos aren't subscribed, so I would really appreciate it if you did. In Sword and Shield, we have a pretty clear-cut answer, and surprisingly, it's not Melanie or
Thank
her
God.
son who both use very bad Pokemon and very bad types. But I will
Okay, both of them are also on the list. Oh God, no, Gordy, don't. Actually, Gordy, stay like that. You're fine.
say, Gordy, you are on thin ice with that Shuckle, my boy. No, like in Unova, this also goes to someone who...
I'm just gonna pause for a second here for reasons. So Gordy, what are you doing with the pose going on here, Gordy? I do love the shorts though. Also, can I just appreciate the fact that they chose like the whole thing with Gordy is that he's kind of like a popular megastar, and he doesn't have like a perfect physique. Like, not, let me rephrase that. He doesn't have like the stereotypical Hollywood like physique, which I can really dig, and I really dig. He is a choice of body positivity, and he is also a choice. But Shuckle is a choice of a different nature. Just putting it out there right now. Just going up. Just putting it out there. Okay.
who
No,
really
but
should have
please
retired
move on.
long before they actually did. Opal. Opal carries a Galarian Weezing with maybe the
God,
worst
the
3
hats.
moves
I
I've
love
ever
those
laid
hats.
eyes on. A Mawile, which speaks for itself. A Togekiss, which doesn't even have Serene Grace. And an Alchemy that can only attack with 1 max move. And that is its signature type of Fairy. So if you have a Pokemon that simply resists Fairy, this Ace Pokemon is probably the easiest.
The only thing keeping me from thirsting over Gordon Moore is his mom. His mom is a perfection. That is it. Anyway,
Easiest one on the team to take down. And for Galar especially, I would argue that the Dynamax Pokemon carries much more weight than the traditional Gym Leader Ace. So if you flub your Dynamax, you're in trouble. The only thing she can maybe get you with are the 3 trick questions she delivers during the match, which will lower your Pokemon stats. But if you're replaying the game, you shouldn't get got a second time unless you have the attention span of a TikTok-obsessed Zoomer. So, maybe you guys will be screwed. Good luck out there. For
Sabin! Welcome back, you constant troll. This is literally you just stealing his video. Well, I think talking about my traction to different gym leaders is a little different, I would say. But, like, if you want to ask JPR to report my channel with copyright strikes, you can ask him. It'll go about the same way the last time someone did that will go, but I digress. But again, Sabin, you're more than welcome to stay around. We know your routine is pretty routine at this point. So, welcome around. Arend Alpha Eagle, thank you for the super chat. Yeesh, no wonder Opal's looking for new air. Yeah, her team's a little lame. I love Opal when she's like younger too. Like her photograph is like really interesting. Has almost like a, was it Fujiko? Was that it from Lupin the Third? I love that aesthetic. It's really cool and interesting. Now, as for this, yeah, I kind of agree with him there. I think a lot of the gyms weren't exactly terrific in Sword and Shield, but like I do dig the whole. It's more the experience and the gym leaders I liked, but the gyms themselves, gym challenges are like, eh. Iron, I need someone to fill me in on Sabin later. Well, I'll tell you about Sabin. Sabin is a Lily Orchard stan who has been trolling everyone who has ever commented on like anything Lily Orchard related, and he's not really good at. Sabin. Is it he or she? What's your pronouns again, Sabin? Please leave them in chat. I don't know what your pronouns are now I think about it. Sabin, their whole thing is they'll troll in the comments and they'll try to heckle you. So, kind of like a basic troll. But they're not really good at like shocking you. Like, I've been in Discords where Sabin shows up and it's surprisingly easy to outshock them. Like, I've been on 4chan. Like, you really, it's hard. Oh, them. Oh, thank you, Sabin. Sorry about that. So they're not really, they have a limitation to how shocking they can go. It's actually surprisingly easy to shock them. If you say a couple slightly edgy things. Blue Baron, thank you for the super chat. Row, fight the power. Row, fight the power. That gotta do a Gurren Lagann video next. Oh my god. Anyway. Oh yeah, uses green hair protagonist. Yeah, that's cool. I like that. That's a cool touch.
Scarlet and Violet, this was certainly the hardest part.
And they love calling Psy fat, which is just body shaming and weird. And bad. I've been on 4chan. Yeah, I know. It's the cringiest crap, I know. Anyway. I've been to 4chan. I know what they do there. Actually, no, I will say this. 4chan did create a really good visual novel in the form of Katawa Shoujo. I will give them that. They had, from that mess of chaos, they did create something beautiful. So that, I will always give them props to that. Anyway. Jack Frost Productions. I've seen Anko Toto with Sabin and is terrifying. I'm not that terrifying. I listen. You could just the trick is if you say the thing is this within life, it doesn't take a lot of effort to say something shocking. You just combine the right adjectives together, and it's shocking. That doesn't take effort. I don't think it's just more. You have to. The difference is it's easy to say something shocking. It's harder to say something meaningful. You know what I mean? I could say the most shocking thing in the world right now if I so chose to. It's just a few words you can arrange together. But it's harder to say something that's impactful and meaningful to a person, I think. And that's what the real challenge in discussing is. Anyone can be edgy. Anyone can be graphic or disturbing. But it takes a lot to say something that impacts someone. And I think that's why I want to do more. Isn't Twitter the new 4chan? Oh, well, yeah, I would say that. I'd say Twitter is more like how 4chan used to be than current 4chan. There is a distinct era of 4chan, like pre-Gamergate versus post-Gamergate. Pre-Gamergate, 4chan was more anti-establishment in a lot of ways, very nihilistic, very directionless in many ways. But post-Gamergate, it's become a right-wing sinkhole. That's the best way of putting it. Anyway, back to this.
Part of the video because I couldn't even remember the gym leaders' names at first, so Googling them took a while. Except for Larry. He's so cool.
He is cool.
But we'll do a quick run through. Katie is a first gym leader and a bug-type gym leader, so the odds are significantly stacked against her, but all things considered, she's not that bad. Double Kick on Nimble at least deals with rock types, and a Terra Bug Teddy Ursa with Fury Cutter is kinda scary for this early in the game, not gonna lie. Brassius' team is slightly less impressive, but having Sudowoodo with Rock Throw to deal with all 4 of Grass's weaknesses is actually pretty genius. And Trailblaze can make this Pokemon into a sweeper.
Okay.
I do wish Ayano had a better water move than Water Gun on her Belly Bolt, but having water in general and a Terra Electric Levitate Nismagius with no weaknesses is definitely a plus. Kofu carries Pluck on Veluza to deal with grass types, but Crabominable as an ace does perplex me a bit because it doesn't really cover for any common water checks. Larry having 2 moves on Star...
I don't feel like any of these gyms were particularly great, though, is the problem. Like, they're interesting, but they always feel like something lacking in terms of the fights.
Raptor and neither being close combat is a big disappointment, but it does check against fighting types, and overall his team is surprisingly competent. Rhyme actually has a pretty good team and strats all around, but it is kind of a shame that, like Opal, the crowd giving out stat boosts can kinda ruin it. Tulip has 2 fairy types to deal with dark types, as well as Crunch and Shadow Ball, and her other 2 Pokemon to deal with ghost types, so she gets a passing grade.
Yeah, she's good.
Which leaves only Grusha.
No.
And once again, the Ice-type gym leader is definitely the worst. First of all, I don't know.
More than half of these are ice types. Exactly half of them are ice type gyms. Also, Grusha, non-binary. I know they're not canonically non-binary, but I feel like my headcanon's that they're questioning gender. We'll say. Love them.
Know why Game Freak had it snow in this area all the time, except during the gym battle. This could have made the fight an actual challenge and served to show off the brand new weather condition in a cool new way, but nope. Frostmoth doesn't even have its good ability, Beartick has good coverage, but like, it's still a Beartick. So Titan Liquidation
JPR,
is good, but it's left wide open against
types.
steel types. And Altaria, first of all, Altaria hasn't been a good Pokemon since like Gen 3, and although its moveset looks really impressive, you quickly realize that aside from Hurricane, none of these moves actually do anything to types that beat Ice. How does Brassius at gym number 2 grasp the concept of an ace in the hole better than the 8th gym leader Grusha? That to me is the sad part. Ice gym leaders, the odds are already stacked against you, but you're not making your jobs any easier for yourselves.
So JPR is an ice type hater.
So anyway, ice type gym
heard it here
leaders, I
first.
will be seeing you in the unemployment line. When the league sees this video, your days are numbered. And if you enjoyed this video, then be sure to leave a like, subscribe for more videos just like this one, and I'll see you.
So JPR, confirmed ice-type hater. Now, it's a good thing I'm not an ice-type fan. I'm more of a ghost and psychic-type fan. But, hey, you know what you gotta do what you gotta do. At least he did not say Melanie was, or Gordy were on the list of bad gyms, because both of them are perfection, and I love them deeply. Grusha is a man. Grusha is male, yes, but I kind of feel like Grusha defies gender a little bit, which I kind of dig. I know canonically Grusha is male, but I'm just saying, like, feels kind of different, you know? Anyway. The final video I'm going to be talking about right now is actually this one, which was recommended to me by many people. Baichi Apiadera, thank you for the super chat. As an ice poison bug fairy trainer, I have words. Share your truth. Share your truth. I'll read it out loud. You don't have to leave another super chat for that one. I feel like there's a lot of words I could say too. Like, there's a lot. Took a break, but really, Price got a lower grade in Johto than have a pigeon a team leader falcon. Yeah, exactly. Well, the thing was, he said at the beginning was he wanted to cut the first few gym leaders of some slack because of typing and because of them being the first leader that's meant to be like the weakest one, meant to introduce you to the challenge of the Pokemon gym leaders. Nick Wolf, Mange TV's also a fun PokeTuber. Special notes are him replacing Rock and Ground with Earth typing, and him figuring out the canon teams of Poketagonists. Yeah, that's fair. Mange TV is really good. I've seen some of his work before. And for whatever reason, in Lily Orchard's ridiculously long Pokemon retrospective, she hated on Mange TV every 5 seconds. Yeah. I'm down with Mange. Mange is okay. You could dig that. Nice little chat moment. Yeah, exactly, right? King. Yeah, there we go. KingK. Yep, KingK. KingK's video. You read Rachel Lillis as Lindsay Ellis at first. And I was like, what? Yeah, that'd be a rough one. All right, take care, Bluebell. Oh, yeah, no. I'm going to be streaming for a bit now. We're going to be here for a little bit more, I think, at the very least. His name is M-A-G-J. Oh, so it's not Mange? It's M&J? Okay, that's interesting. Ice types were the original anti-dragons and can take on and beat most dragons as long as they can get speed. Albeit Glaceon is the only fast one. Yeah, so Glaceon's the best ice type then. So more gym leaders should have Glaceon as their ace. Charboy, thank you for the super chat. Listen to this while we playing Pokemon Pearl. Team is Infernape, Luxray, Staraptor, Floatzel, Roserade, Bronzong. I love Sinnoh with my whole heart. I'm so glad you love Sinnoh. I was never super into Sinnoh, but I respect Sinnoh as like in its placement. I think Sinnoh, the element of Sinnoh I like the most is the lore it brings to the Pokemon world, which is fantastic. Marker, you missed your video. You missed me reacting to your thing. Hopefully it takes we're in too hot. No, Marker, you're great. The only thing is, I would say, and I do argue with you in this one in the video. If you want, you can watch it later if you want. I argued a little bit on Pokemon 2000. Otherwise, I'm with you for most of it. Oh, that's great. I'm glad you popped in. We watched yours first, actually. We reacted to your first Pokemon movies video. It's solid takes, man. Solid takes. Love them. Oh, that's fun. I'm glad you're on here. This is fun. Yeah, no. So for the last video we're going to be doing right now, because I feel like I will probably pass out at some point if I don't stop myself early, as people have seen me doing these streams before. Actually, it's so funny. I was with with a few friends. We're getting tuxes for his wedding, and my one friend, he basically tells me I work all the time because I'm constantly doing work. People ask how I make these videos every week. It's because I'm working constantly. And he's like, yeah, we tell you to take a break every so often, but you don't. It's like, we just kind of gave up on asking you to stop working so much, which is valid. Anyway, but anyway, he was like, you do these 7-hour streams. Like, I've done 7 hours yet. Like, no, you basically do. I'm like, oh, that's fair enough. Anyway, so let's just dive into this one. This is the last video we're going to be doing right now. KingK's video. It's going to give that a like there as well, because you are a good sport for taking all the punishment there, Marker. Anyway, okay, cool. Pokemon Red and Blue retrospective. I'm only going to do the first part of this because I know he's done like a 5-hour retrospective, and I don't have enough in me right now for that level of commitment. If you like it, I could do the rest, but I want to make these interesting where it's a discussion. Again, as I mentioned from the beginning, media analysis is a discussion. We want to have an engagement back and forth. This might be more than I might be biting off more than I can chew with this one, but we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, let's see. Love the opening. I love this commercial. It's such a weird commercial.
I'll be right back.
Arend Alpha Eagle, thank you for the super chat. My favorite Pokemon is Lopunny from Sinnoh, but I'm nostalgic for Hoenn. Mega Lopunny bring introduced in Oras is like they did that for me specifically moment. I love that though. That's so cool. I love when you have something like that means something like that to you. It's so cool. Anyway, this commercial is terrifying.
Where can you catch all 150 Pokemon?
something really sick about this commercial.
Got it? On your Game Boy, that's where. Pokemon for Game Boy is here. With both packs, you can catch them all.
I kind of love it, but it's sick.
Pokémon, as a series, has seen some remarkable changes since the late 90s. No more is it about two trainers striking out on an adventure to challenge the Pokémon League, to befriend Pokémon and trainers alike, to catch them all. It's about wormholes, parallel universes, world-ending stakes, and Mantine surfing.
Yeah.
It's humbling to travel back and imagine a simpler era, one less tainted by feature creep. Not to say everything about modern...
Nick Wolf, thank you for the super chat. Can't watch this commercial anymore without thinking of Doug Walker wanting the Pokemon to have been crushed to death because it would make Poke fans mad. Ugh. When did Doug Walker do that? That is wild, but not shocking. That makes sense. It was one of his like commercial review episodes. That wouldn't surprise me. That's wild though, but not surprising. Baichi Apiadera, thank you for the super chat. Side note. You don't realize how powerful the evolutions are until you have all 8 of them at low levels in Legend Arceus. Yeah, that's true. You really don't realize how powerful they are until that point. That's a fair point entirely. That is wild, though. That's fun. I'm still hung up over the Doug Walker thing. That's really funny and kind of sick, but not surprising. Anyway.
Pokemon is bad, there's simply a difference in design philosophy that's a little hard to fully understand until you turn back the pendulum. Pit the latest Pokemon game up against the first, the latest season of the anime up against its debut, the current designs up against the originals. So much has changed in over 20 years. Generation 1 is primitive by comparison, but no less iconic. What it established for the series going forward can't be adequately explained in a few paragraphs, which is why this video exists. Because I'm weird and want to make huge videos dissecting each generation of Pokemon in an effort to convince you I'm smart. This will be the first part in a larger series discussing the debut games of each generation, and maybe some in between. I have elected to ignore the remakes for now in favor of not letting my thoughts...
I'm going to speed this up slightly just because I don't want to be here all night, but this is really cool stuff. I like this intro so far. Like, obviously introducing you into the idea of drawing connections. Because, again, you look at Pokemon at where it started versus where it is now, and there's... I'm trying to get it on camera here. There's such a gap between, like, those standards, you know, those points in perspective. You know, it's funny, you know, I think, like, I was talking to my parents the other day, and, you know, they mentioned how... They were reminiscing about when I was younger, we would go and... I was obsessed with Pokemon. I'm not sure you can tell. And they were saying how, like, they had to remember all 150 Pokemon, yada yada. Took me to the Pokemon movies when they came out in theaters. Up till 5, that's when they stopped really showing them in, like, theaters all that much. And just talking about, like, how, you know, it's so wild. And then they added another 100 on top, and it was so many Pokemon. I'm like, oh, they added a few more since then, Mom. Celebi's not the last Pokemon anymore. Not for a few years now. Also, Pokemon music slaps, and I love it. This is like so
get too out of control. This video in particular would be 3 times as long if I tried to cram in both of its remakes, and I just don't think that's necessary to get my points across. At some point, I'll be making a video on every single Pokemon remake, evaluating their best and worst aspects, so don't worry. These remakes will get their time to shine one day. For now, though, I'd like to focus on the premier titles. In this video, we'll be discussing the generation that started it all. Red, Blue, and Yellow. You're watching a Pokemon retrospective. Generation 1.
You can't catch all 150 Pokemon by yourself.
I love these commercials.
You need a friend to trade with.
As they go across the buildings, right? Love that. That's so cool. I love that.
So you can grab a link cable and a friend with a Game Boy, and with both packs you can catch them all.
To say the series...
Listen, kids nowadays don't realize how, like, important the school experience with Pokemon was with the link cables. Like, now you can trade with anyone across the world. Back then, you had to find someone, like, physically at your school, convince them to trade their Mewtwo with you, that they glitched out with using, like, every single trick in the book. So it was, like, level 256 or whatever. And it would come to your team, it would level up to level 1 and, like, bust your whole game up, basically. It's cool stuff. I love that kind of cool stuff. And the commercial had to sell you on the idea of the cable link, because cable links weren't really used for any... Like, they were games that used cable links, obviously, for other things, but, like, the cable link wasn't really relevant. Link cables, I should say, wasn't really relevant for most other games aside from Pokemon. Like, if you had a link cable, you were really only using it for Pokemon or I would say Legend, Oracle of Seasons, Oracle of Ages with Zelda. Like that was about it. The other ones, they weren't as mainstream. But yeah, there you go.
Exploded in popularity upon the release of Red and Blue in the States would be an understatement. By the time they released, the incredibly successful Nintendo Game Boy was nearly 10 years old. Games like Super Mario Land, Tetris, and Kirby's Dream Land ensured this long lifespan, and remnants of this success can be felt in the Switch today. For as great as these games were, however, none of them necessarily fit the system. Super Mario Land was Mario on the go, who could argue with that? It was successful, it put the Game Boy on the map, but couldn't you theoretically get that same experience on a home console?
Yeah.
Same with Tetris and Dr. Mario. Great puzzle games for short, on-the-go bursts, but do they necessarily take advantage of their hardware? Is there anything inherently you lose when you play Tetris or Dr. Mario on a home console? Even games that saw their debut on the system, like Kirby, have since been translated to home consoles seamlessly. While Kirby is and always has been popular on handhelds, at the end of the day, it's still a 2D side-scrolling single-player video game series. Then, out of seemingly...
Well, okay, that I have to say this. I don't know if I totally am on board with you with this statement. Tetris, all these games can translate to any console. Like, we've seen it already. Like, Tetris, of course, is a great puzzle game on the go. Its simplicity is what works, but I would say it's still designed with the hardware in mind. It's a very simple game that doesn't overpower the system. All the design philosophies of Super Mario Land incorporate the Game Boy level design. I would also say that with Kirby especially, the first Kirby game is a platformer on the go. It is designed that way, but Kirby Dream Land versus Kirby's Adventure, like those games are designed very differently, I would say. Again, I digress. I think when they moved the console, they got more complicated. More design philosophies were incorporated that were really elevated it. But I think that they were like Tetris. You can play for hours. Yeah, Tetris you can play for hours. That's true. But most kids who played it could not do that. So don't forget, now we know the meta with Tetris. Now Tetris is like this like epic long puzzle game, but at the time it was designed with the idea that it could go for a while. And keep in mind, you were playing these like in car rides, like like this is what you took with your car ride across like a road trip with your family, or as I used to do, I used to play at night under the covers. A little you guys remember this the little plug-in light that you would plug into the Game Boy because there was no backlight to the screen? That was fun. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked.
Nowhere, Pokémon. On the surface, a single-player RPG where you catch and train 150 battle monsters to defeat other trainers and challenge the powerful endgame league. It's spread like wildfire from the word go. You've got over 100 unique creatures to find. Charizard is a cool fire-breathing dragon, Jigglypuff is a cute pink puffball that likes to sing, Pikachu is an adorable mouse that shoots electricity from its body. These designs are memorable for different reasons. People would want to catch them for different reasons. These creatures not only exist in the same universe.
Have I seen what the competitive scene is doing with NES Tetris at the moment? I have not actually, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was going wild. Tetris has always been one of those things that like draws a fervent audience. Like they are intense. Tetris is rough.
Universe, they can battle alongside each other. Collecting Pokemon is special because there are so many to call your own. Ultimately, it's your decision which monsters you'll bring with you on your adventure. Right down to your first Pokemon being framed as this big event in your small town, picking from 3 iconic starters. You might have vague ideas about what they'll turn into from the box art.
Yeah.
You might not have any idea until you train them up and watch them evolve from a cute water turtle into a beast with water cannons on its shoulders. The idea that there are 150 different creatures out there to catch, train, and love is nothing short of exciting. Why do you think the anime was so centered around catching them all? Yet, it's the decidedly multiplayer aspects of Pokemon that make...
So yeah, that's a fair point. Again, I mentioned this before. Mr. Mime, when the anime, because a lot of people I know didn't have Mr. Mime on hand. So if you watch the anime first, which I actually did, I watched the anime before playing the games. You watch the anime and you're like, Mr. Mime, what is this? Like, what is this thing? Like, it's so unlike the rest of the Pokemon, and you would think it seems like a fake Pokemon. Then you watch and like, no, this is a real Pokemon. This is an actual thing. So yeah, the idea of catching them all was a real... I remember back in the day, there used to be the diploma that you would get. If you catch all the Pokemon, you go to... I forget if it's like the head of the... I forget if it's Professor Oak or if it's the head of the department store in Celadon City. He give you a diploma for catching all the Pokemon. That was the end goal. That was the end game. But that fell away pretty quickly as the competitive scene took over, as we got more and more Pokemon. So yeah, I would say this is an element of... the game has been lost over time.
make it a handheld game. See, Nintendo aren't dumb. They knew the Game Boy had a huge install base, which meant dozens of kids across the world primed for the Pikachu heroin injection. They paired this knowledge with a devilishly genius idea. Split the game in two, list both at full price, and create very small differences between them. You can only catch Growlithe in red, and you can only catch Vulpix in blue. If you wanted to catch them all, register every Pokemon in your Pokedex, fulfill both Professor Oak's and your desire to catch them all, you'd have to trade with another human being. It's very unlikely you own both red and blue with access to 2 Game Boys and a link cable. Let's say you're a youngin' in the late 90s with Pokemon Blue version. You've caught as many as you can possibly find. You finally wrangled Ninetales, Magmar, Pinsir, but you can't seem to fully complete that Pokedex. Luckily, you're a kid, and you go to school every day with other kids deep into this nationwide Pokemon fever. Kids who bring their Game Boys to school, who likely report their previous day progress not unlike a book club. It's here you learn about the monsters you missed. Arcanine, Scyther, Electabuzz, with a bunch of other kids learning the exact same thing about your Ninetales, Magmar, and Pinsir. You get some deals going, you complete that Pokedex, and boom, you've actually caught them all. How did you do that? Outside of playing the game, where did you learn about the location of certain Pokemon in a game with random encounter rates? Some as low as 5%. This was before Bulbapedia, by the way. You didn't do it by yourself, that's for goddamn sure. You went to school every day, you traded both Pokemon and information with other kids, until you saw it all. This is the secret sauce. Pokemon is a social event masquerading as a single-player video game, and that's exactly why it's still a big hit. If it had attempted to appeal to—
Yep, that's very true. That's very true. Nowadays, people don't realize we had the internet, but we mostly read these things called magazines. You know magazines? They were like, oh, hang on, I do have it. Hang on, this time I have it. Let me show you this. This is great. Piece of history right here. Kinda, sorta. No, actually, that's not it. I lied to you. That's not actually what I was. Where is it? Oh, here we go. Oh, you ready to? Okay, so kids from. This is actually surprisingly in decent quality. I'm surprised it's so maintained. All right, you want to see something fun? Let me show you something cool. This is at least I think it's cool. This is from. This was the Beckett. They graded cars and everything like that. Beckett's magazine back in the day. This is legitimately artwork of Yukimoto with a blue eyes behind him for some reason, and Ash with like the Millennium. Let's see if you can see that clearly. The Millennium puzzle hat thing and like that. This is from ages ago. It used to have all this artwork. Look at some of this artwork. It's so cool. A little poster with Mew with like a little snorkel glasses there. It's so much fun. This was published. What year was this published in? This was, and you have all the little guides and the cards and everything like that in here. It's some wild stuff. Oh, display until January 19th, 2003. This is the January 2003 issue. Volume 5, number 1, issue 41. So 41 issues of this so far. And they'd have they had all this like little contest for games they tell you about. They'd talk about Pokemon cards and strategies and stuff like that. And there's a lot of kids who wanted to like get a little further in. Oh, this is an interesting one. Pokemon websites. I wonder how many of these are online still. I might go through these at one point. Pokemon.com. Okay, fair enough. A main site. Wizards of the Coast / Pokemon. So they encourage you to go to the people who now hire the Pinkertons to attack you if you leak cards early. Who I don't think did they even do the Pokemon trading card game, Wizards? Or is it under Pokemon Company now? I'm not even sure. KidsWB.com, which I think is now defunct most likely. The Beckett Pokemon Collector, okay. And PokemonCenter.com / Pokestore. So this would be now the Pokemon Center website that's currently on. So a lot of these are still alive, I think, except for KidsWB.com because. And they'd also show these like fan art pieces, like from kids. Like so, you get these like little kid fan art pieces, and it would be like a community that the magazine would be the center of. And this was like kind of a way that kids who didn't have as strong of a social life, or maybe kids who wanted to learn a little more to impress their friends, to tell them, I know where to find a cool Pokemon at. And they also had for Pokemon card collectors, which is the adults, a massive list of all the cards and their value. So for example, Charizard, he was priced at 150 mint back in the 2000s. Now, I think Logan Paul bought one for like what, a few million? Ridiculous. The prices have changed. All right, so I think there's another super chat here. Or is that just cool? So anyway, Spops, thank you for the super chat. Spoops, sorry. Shout out to the publisher of those cheat code books. They'd sell at Book Fair. Yeah. Scholastic, I think, was the main one. Anyway, back to the video.
To any other demographic during its debut, it wouldn't have become the monolith you now recognize it as. The majority of Gen X parents didn't play video games at all, let alone on Game Boys with colorful little battle monsters, and they certainly didn't bring their games to work or social gatherings. Spare time likely existed in brief pockets of sleep and television. This is an idea that only works under a specific set of circumstances that just so happen to repeat themselves every generation, every 10-year age gap, every 1-year age gap. Every kid can get behind Pokemon and its social aspects. Let's think back again for another example. You're that kid who owns Pokemon Blue. What else do you spend time with after you've defeated your rival on the Indigo Plateau? Well, there are still battles to be had. With other kids, pitting your most powerful Pokemon against your friend's most powerful Pokemon, locking eyes day after day, getting to see new moves, new Pokemon. Imagine if you went to Cerulean Cave one night and found Mewtwo. Your best friend has no idea what a Mewtwo even is, but you have one now, and you show it off. You brag a little. You battle them with it and completely mop the floor with them because Mewtwo has godlike stats in a generation where psychic types are fucking broken. Sorry, what? This feeds into a sense of both game-created and player-created Pokemon mythology. Finding Mew under the truck near the SSN, wondering what the hell that flying bird was in the first episode of the anime, and attempting to decipher whatever a Peekaboo is supposed to be. Those are just the popular ones.
The Pokegods. The rumor mill for Pokemon back in elementary school was ridiculous. Because again, there's no Pokepedia. There's no people going day one to hack in the game and get all the data. People just make stuff up. There was a rumor that you could evolve Dragonite into Yoshi, and people believed that. They have a fake sprite and they believe it. It's ridiculous. But that's what it was.
Popular myths before the internet communication age. Countless other stories, rumors, and legends exist across the world that some of us still don't even know about. This is the wrong generation, but I remember reading a Pokemon Emerald strategy guide with my friends back in the day, and we thought that some coffee stain was actually a Manaphy egg hidden at the Battlefront Pier. These games were so mysterious to the underdeveloped mind. This is a story that only my friends and I remember fondly. Imagine just how many different stories like that exist. How many hundreds of thousands across the globe. It's magical. Early Pokemon enjoyed several years of uninterrupted wanderlust, with kids obsessively playing Pokemon, talking Pokemon, collecting Pokemon, trying to find Pokemon that didn't even exist. These are powerful nostalgia agents. I'm fairly certain the design goals for Pokemon were to create a game that allowed for this social intimacy at its core, surrounded by an RPG crust, and it was a resounding success because their priorities
Bill's Garden, you remember that? The rumor about Bill's Garden in the background. So basically the idea that Bill has this extra space of empty blocks you could walk in theory. And people were saying, if you bring the Pokegods to Bill or something like that, or you bring Mew 3 to Bill, you can go behind Bill's house and explore the Pokegarden where these ultra powerful Pokemon were. And again, Cerulean Cave, Mewtwo. It was a great time. People were really making interesting rumors, and it kind of spurred on the mythology of Pokemon quite a bit in a way that I think is really impressive and to this day has not been matched.
To become a great Pokemon trainer, Ash must catch as many as possible by battling his own Pokemon against the other. Once the Pokemon has been weakened in the battle, Ash can catch it within a Pokeball. The captured Pokemon become loyal to Ash, who must choose the correct type of Pokemon to use when battling with another. Like a rock, paper, scissors match, it's all about strategy. There are 15 Pokemon types, including electric, flying, bug, grass, fire, and water, to name a few.
So many great
Pokemon
types.
was a game designed to be a social experience from its very inception, with just enough endearing designs in Backbone's rock, paper, scissors gameplay to carry the experience for children. Red and Blue don't strike me as games that were meticulously designed or tweaked for a single-player campaign in the same vein as Final Fantasy. Part of this might be due to the limited memory available to Game Boy cartridges, but I'm sure just as much consideration went into the potential primary demographic. Each Pokemon can only carry 4 moves, trainers can only battle using 1 monster at a time, and can only carry 6 in a party. Most of your potential strategy comes via a set of 15 types that each have individual matchups. The Elemental Trio is a fine example. Fire beats grass, grass beats water, and water beats fire. Easy to understand and perfectly balanced across the 3 starter Pokemon. It's when you venture onward that it isn't nearly as clear-cut. Some of them are natural, like fire burning grass, water putting out fire, the earth grounding electricity, and because of that, these are the easiest to learn. The more ethereal types, stuff like Psychic and Ghost, are more confusing because they don't follow any logical through line. Why is Psychic weak to Bug? Simply because Psychic needed a weakness. Through this vast array of strengths, weaknesses, and immunities, we reach what is, on paper, a balanced in-game meta.
Yep.
Except rarely is anything as good as it is on paper. Psychic and Dragon clearly dominate the type chart with virtually no matches because they were weak to types that were simply no competition. The Dragon type is a less severe example since it only affects the Dragonite line, but I'm going to use it to demonstrate a larger issue. Dragon types were weak to both the Dragon and Ice type, with the caveat being that the only damaging Dragon type move in Gen 1 was Dragon Rage, a set damage move that never changes its attack power even when it's super effective. In reality then, Dragon became the most defensive type because it resisted fire, water, electric, and grass with only the Ice type as a weakness. The Ice typing is held by a whopping 5 Pokemon, with Ice type moves learned by level up obtained at or around the level 50s. That means there are only 5 Pokemon that benefit from same type attack bonus with Ice-type moves, a concept which means that if the move you're using is the same type as the Pokemon using it, the move does 50% more damage. Here are your options against Dragon-type Pokemon. 1 of 5 Ice types, or 1 other type that can learn Ice Beam or Blizzard. Only once, because TMs are single-use items. Use up Ice Beam or Blizzard on the wrong Pokemon, or just never find those TMs in the first place, you've just lost a crucial weapon against the Dragon-type. Again, even though that means Dragonite.
And because Lance is a Dragon trainer, that meant if you had Ice types, you're good to go. But otherwise, not so much.
With its near legendary tier stats, has virtually no weaknesses, this at least isn't a problem that spans multiple Pokemon. In fact, as future games would come to show, Dragon types are supposed to be limited in number, extremely powerful, and kinda rare. This sheer strength can be dismissed on that front alone. No, the more blatant problem, and the reason I feel this whole type system was maybe cobbled together haphazard.
Nick Wolf, thank you for the super chat. People are scared of bugs, disrupt Psychic's focus. That makes sense. I know bugs disrupt everyone's focus when they crawl in the house, something like that. I'm having fun with bugs, but people get freaked out by bugs.
Is the Psychic type. By far the most comically overpowered type of any game in the series for a myriad of reasons. Like the Dragon type, it only has one weakness. Bug. In this case, there are far more Bug-type Pokemon than there are Ice-type Pokemon, but here's the kicker. Bug types usually have horrendous offensive stats. Bug types existed mostly to give the player an early look at how evolution works, and to give them a bit of an edge early game with a strong, fully evolved Pokemon. Beyond the second or third gym, their usefulness often wanes. In Generation 1, there were 3 offensive Bug-type moves: Leech Life with 20 base power, Twin Needle with 25 base power plus a potential second attack, and Pin Missile with 25 base power plus a random chance of hitting anywhere from 2 to 5 times. There is not a single Bug-type move with more than 50 guaranteed base power by these calculations, so you basically need Pin Missile and a lot of luck. Problem: only 2 Pokemon are capable of learning Pin Missile by level up: Beedrill and Jolteon. Beedrill learns it at level 30, and Jolteon learns it at level 48. Beedrill is also the only Pokemon of the 2 that benefits from same type attack bonus. What about Twin Needle then? Seems like a safe second, right? The only Pokemon that learns Twin Needle is Beedrill. It's cool, Beedrill has a signature attack, but this means that Leech Life is the most common Bug-type attacking move, and the fun doesn't end there, oh no. Not only is there not a single Bug-type TM in Generation 1, 2 of the objectively strongest Bug-type Pokemon, Scyther and Pinsir, cannot learn Bug-type moves. I'm not joking here. They are bug types that, for no discernible reason, don't learn a single bug type move. Think about that one for a second.
Oh my goodness, forgot that detail.
Psychic types though, oh, they have Confusion with 50 base power plus a chance of confusion, Psybeam with 65 base power plus a chance of confusion, Dream Eater, which does 100 base damage to sleeping Pokemon, and Psychic, which does 90 base power and can be learned by Venonat, Venomoth, Kadabra, Alakazam, Slowpoke, Slowbro, Drowsy, Hypno, Staryu, Mr. Mime, Mewtwo, Butterfree, Clefairy, Clefable, Jigglypuff, Wigglytuff, Poliwag, Poliwhirl, Poliwrath, Ghastly, Haunter, Gengar, Execute, Exeggutor, Chansey, Starmie, Electabuzz, Magmar, Lapras, Porygon, and Snorlax. Fighting and poison types have it very difficult. Must suck to be a Team Rocket grunt. Oh yeah, remember good old Beedrill, your frontline fighter against psychic types, your stalwart defender against the most broken type of the first generation? It has a dual type shared between bug and poison. Bug types do not resist psychic at all, but poison is weak to psychic, which means the best defense against psychic type Pokemon and moves is itself weak to fucking psychic. Oh boy, the mere existence of the—
Yeah, no, here's the thing. When I was watching Lily Orchard's Pokemon retrospective, the biggest complaint I had was that she wasn't listening to the game. She wasn't understanding the game mechanics on their terms. This is what I'm talking about. This is like the clear issues with Gen 1. The absurdity of this. It's so ridiculous. When you break it down, you see how messily designed. I don't want to say poorly designed, because it's not bad design, the game as a collective whole, but it is so poorly thought out. They didn't apply the mechanics in a way that made sense. Like on paper, all the typing made sense, all that works. Execution, they failed upon that. But again, they learned, and that's important. Game Freak hadn't made a lot of games before this. Nick Wolf, thank you for the super chat. Again, cut should be / have been a bug type move. Yeah, cut would have been perfect. Was it normal type? It's lame. Bug type would have worked. It would have been a really good bug type move that could have countered a lot of psychic Pokemon. And it could be learned by a lot of different Pokemon to balance the game better. But again, like, it's also a mess of code. Also, because there's so many glitches in Red and Blue. Missing No is just the most well-known glitch. But there's several glitches. Glitch City, the M Pokemon. There's tons of that. As a ROM hack that's fixing the red, blue, and yellow problems. That'd be cool. I'm down for that. Yeah, the code was a mess for Red and Blue, but it's not poorly designed in theory. It's just a messy first attempt. And they learned. They had to learn something. They got somewhere, and they got somewhere from there. So that's good. But
the
still,
psychic type
this
throws
is a
the type
mess.
chart into complete disarray, however well balanced the idea may have initially been. This discourages certain types of Pokemon, and in a way, it kind of defeats the purpose of having such a wide selection in the first place. These first two games only really have battles in them. There's no contest side mode or anything like that. Making a team is integral to the experience, and when there's such a clear imbalance, it makes some choices far more appealing than others. Though it isn't wholly the fault of the type chart, it's also
The glitches were part of the fun. I saw that in chat. Yeah, the glitches were part of the fun. I enjoy the glitches. The glitches were part of the legendarium of Pokemon and part of its success. A lot of kids would just talk about glitches because we knew enough about the mechanics of game design at the time, even then, to go, hey, if you do this, you do that, the game acts funky. We could figure that out at least. And it was kind of scary at times.
down to how the game uses it. Unfortunately, good designs do not necessarily equal good utility. I love the design of Ponyta and Rapidash. They're your average horse, except their manes are on fire.
Yeah,
simple,
great design.
hilarious in a way, but I've always connected with them as a pyromaniac. I want to ride one. Sucks then that Ponyta and Rapidash are physical-based offensive fire types, just about the worst thing you could possibly do to these bored bastards. Types are broken into two groups, physical
City,
and
I
special.
love that.
And higher typings are given classifications for the calculations that go on behind the scenes with clashing stats. For instance, fire-type attacks will be special by virtue of their fire typing, so the power of the attack will be based on the attacking Pokemon's special stat, and subtraction occurs based on the receiving Pokemon's special stat. Let's take a level 40 Rapidash using Ember against a level 40 Kadabra. Through a set of calculations that are super fun and interesting, we come to the conclusion that Kadabra will lose a minuscule amount of health due to the special stat difference. Now, if fire was a physical type, Rapidash would rely on its base 100 attack stat, which would help it far more. Alas, many Pokemon were cursed with this mismatched type to stat ratio. Flareon has the exact same problem. High attack, no fire type moves to take advantage of it. You can't have a psychic type that is primarily a physical attacker. I mean, you can, no one's gonna stop you, but it will be incredibly ineffective. Similarly, you can't have a rock type that is primarily a special attacker, not even a dual type between rock and ground. This is fine in and of itself, but how about we further scramble this mess of the type chart? Take Kadabra with a 120 special stat. We aren't even talking about Alakazam yet, bear in mind. Compare Kadabra to a physically defensive Pokemon like Onix. Kadabra is so much better than Onix for so many reasons. But let's focus in on one particular disparity. Onix has a very respectable defense stat at 160, while everything else is pitiful at best. Kadabra is in a similar boat with its 120 special stat. The difference here is that Onix only has one good stat, while Kadabra technically has two. Onix will tank physical hits like they're nothing at all, with the trade-off being that it can't fire back. Kadabra doesn't have a trade-off, because it fires off special attacks at 120, while also...
Okay, we know what he's going to say. Yeah, the type was way in the psychic types. Kadabra was one of the best Pokemon in the game. If you have Kadabra, the game's over, basically, which, of course, meant every kid had to catch Kadabra. I see your post. My own personal hot take, Pokemon Coliseum and Gale of Darkness should be remastered. And there should be more Pokemon spin-offs in different genres in general. Yeah, there should be. I fully agree with you on that. And not just apps. Like, I do like some of the new games they have. Like, there's a MOBA Pokemon game, Pokemon Unite. I haven't played it, but it looks really cool. I'm not a big MOBA person, so that's just not my thing. But, yeah, no, there should be some... I should think there should be some weird Pokemon games, too. I love Puzzle League. It's a great game. It's a puzzle game. I love that whole thing. It's a great aesthetic. But again, no, we need different varieties. I would like to see a Pokemon first-person shooter, personally, but, you know, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't want to do that. That's what Power World basically is. Anyway.
Defending special attacks at 120. Let's say you use a physical move against Onix. Yeah, he can tank it, but he won't be sweeping you anytime soon.
Conquest 2, I agree.
If you use a special attacker against Kadabra, it will tank the hit and then decimate with a counterattack based on the same stat. What this essentially means is that special typings are objectively superior to physical typings in most instances. Types like water, grass, electric, did somebody say psychic? These types have more going for them than normal, flying, or ground, and it limits your Pokemon choices quite a bit. It isn't to say you won't use a physical attacker, since it can bypass special Pokemon fairly easily, just that special Pokemon end up being more useful in more situations, and since types are classified as either physical or special, that means entire typings will end up more useful than others. There's a reason.
And that's the problem right there with the game. I firmly believe that you should play the game with the Pokemon you love the most, but with Gen 1, because of the way the game is designed, only a small number of types are useful. I think there's not enough. Like, if you have Alakazam, the game's over. Like, that's it. You've won, basically. It's messy. It's very messy, but if you have an Alakazam and a Dragonite, forget it. Game's over. You win. But, like, I don't know. I wish there was more diversity in this game. Because, again, the problem is, if you don't have these types, you're going to have a hard time winning. Elite Four is punishing if you don't have the specific Pokemon that beat the whole game.
Alakazam is so good. There's a reason you don't see a lot of Onix or Golem. There's a reason you see Starmie and Cloyster. There's a reason you don't see Beedrill or Butterfree. All of this is child's play compared to the many other issues that exist in Gen 1. Speed being proportional to your critical hit rate, meaning that faster Pokemon get more critical hits. Moves like Focus Energy, cutting your critical hit rate instead of doubling it. Moves like Wrap
Also
and Bind,
why
preventing you from attacking. Easily stun locking.
so good,
Moves
he's
that
fast.
raised your stats so high that your numbers would roll over into lower numbers.
Yes.
This stuff is insane. I understand that bugs and design quirks are an inherent part of the process, and you're never going to be able to quash them all. I'm more surprised by the sheer quantity and severity of some of these issues. Take Wrap and Bind, for instance. They can attack anywhere from 2 to 5 turns, dealing a small
Wrap
bit
and
of damage
Bind
over time.
destroy-
Neither
will
Pokemon can
destroy
do
you.
anything until Wrap runs its course, and the opponent is still going to be doing damage that entire time. It's like an extended variation of Fury Swipes or Pin Missile. Not only can it be frustrating to sit back and slowly watch your health drop, if your Pokemon is slower than the opponent, there is absolutely nothing stopping them from deathlocking you. Erica's gym has a ton of Pokemon in it with the move Wrap, and there were several points where one of my Pokemon simply couldn't act out of this broken Wrap lock. The issue could potentially get even worse when sleep enters the picture, which in Generation 1 takes away your entire turn to wake up. Theoretically, this means that you can be sleep locked and subsequently Wrap locked at the same time. It punishes you severely for having slower Pokemon, and a surprising amount of trainers throughout Kanto have the move on at least one of their Pokemon. These problems often branch out into the overall level design.
Yep, that's a great point too. Again, I always forget this. You know, years later, even after playing Pokemon for years, I still sometimes forget that like Bind doesn't strip you of your turns because of how punishing this was when I was younger. You know, I remember playing the game and like just thinking like, well, now I'm just stuck here. Brock had the same thing with Bind. Erica had this with all different powders and Bind and Wrap. It's like Wrap, not Bind. Like you would just get like stuck in these cycles. You just got to sit there and you're going to lose health. And you know, watch as your health slowly diminishes and you can't do anything about it unless you pick the specific Pokemon that will win the game. That's how it is. I mean, you could win
To
without
become a
them,
great
but
trainer,
it's tough.
Ash has to capture all of these amazing Pokemon creatures. And that's a lot he's got to know in order to catch them all.
Gotta catch 'em all!
That's why Professor Oak gave him his first Pokédex. It's the newest model with the latest digital technology that will give Ash instant Pokemon information with greater clarity and better reception than ever before. I need to upgrade my model.
I want to take a look at
Those
the first
90s
area,
commercials
which
are
I count
so
as the
weird.
length of time spanning from when you first get a Pokemon all the way up to obtaining your first gym badge. Your first choice is between Charmander, Squirtle, and Bulbasaur.
Yeah.
For this first area, the only two sane options are Squirtle and Bulbasaur, unless you want to have a really bad time.
Yeah,
What Pokemon can you
Bulbasaur.
catch before going up against the first gym? Pidgey, Rattata, Nidoran female, Nidoran male, Spearow, Caterpie, Weedle, and Pikachu. What are the good options against Rock-type Pokemon? Well, Pidgey and Pidgeotto are normal flying types, so all of their moves are resisted by the Rock typing. All of Rattata's moves are once again resisted by the Rock typing. Caterpie and Weedle are in pretty much the same boat. Pikachu's not only extremely rare, but I mean, have you watched the anime? No.
Dingo Bengal, thank you for the super chat. Oh dear God, the Age of Mythology community is so weird and cringy in a very bad way. I got hit with ableism for asking for Hippocrates to come back. Oh my goodness, Age of Mythology. Haven't thought of that in ages. Oh, that's a game I want to play again. I wonder if it's any good, Age of Mythology. It's been ages. It's been ages since I've played Age of Mythology. Back in the, I wonder if those old RTSs, how well they hold up. Because it's been so long. I like Civilization. That's a fun game.
Not a great pick.
But not
Butterfree
quite
is
the same
realistically
thing.
the only option that makes sense, because it learns
Yeah.
Confusion and Poison Powder for some reliable special damage and status ailments to whittle down Brock's team. But even then, there's no guarantee that Butterfree will even last that long with its piss-poor defense. Plus, I recently learned that status ailments don't mean anything, because gym leaders can instantly heal them on a whim. Moral of the story here is that your early game difficulty choices are easy, or grind until it becomes easy. Squirtle learns super effective moves against rock types, and so does Bulbasaur, leaving Charmander in the dust. Now, I don't expect Pokemon games to be perfectly fine-tuned with a smooth difficulty curve.
Honestly,
as that's
Charmander is rough in the early game anyway, because Misty's there too, you know? I mean, if you have a Pikachu, you're good with Misty, but like Misty and Brock are both pretty good against Charmander. So if you every kid chose Charmander and they won a lot, but still. Back in 2013, the extended edition dropped. Oh, I could try that out then. That'd be fun. Age of Mythology.
Impossible. Unlike other RPGs, Pokemon has an unprecedented amount of variables to account for. 15 different types, even more type combinations, type matchups, 150 different Pokemon you can control, and the player chooses to do whatever the hell they want with any of those Pokemon at any given time. Asking any team of human beings to perfectly balance a game with that many options would be hell on earth, and I will never demand perfection of any Pokemon game.
No,
I actually like the idea that your Pokemon selection affects each game's difficulty organically, meaning you struggle at different points depending on what team you build. I started with a Charmander on my most recent playthrough, caught a Caterpie, and traded up to Butterfree so I could stand a chance. The fight itself was refreshingly challenging for a veteran, and even got me to develop more interesting strategies to survive. But I do have limits. There is a point at which I draw the line, and this is one of those cases. This is the beginning of a video game, where you're meant to learn and absorb the mechanics in order to use them
Rock
for the
is
rest of
tough
your
if
20
you
or
have
so
the wrong
hours being
team.
gyms. An especially salient point given that this was the first game in the series. To not have a single worthwhile option outside of your starter against a typing that is primarily physically defensive is frankly absurd, and means that any poor soul who picks Charmander is in for an unholy amount. of grinding. The worst part, though, is that there are only 3 or 4 trainers in Viridian Forest to fight for a sufficient amount of experience. The rest of your grinding will be done against wild Pokemon, which give less experience because they're wild, and even less because they're much lower level than anything in Brock's gym. I had no idea what I wanted to use against Brock, so I had to just grind up all the Pokemon I had that wouldn't die in 5 seconds, so that they could hopefully lower Onix's attack.
That's the Pokemon experience right there. People don't realize this. Again, I think with like more recent games, the gym leaders are so like relatively weak. Brock was a tough challenge when you were a kid. Like, that's an accomplishment. When you get your first badge, you feel good about it because it's so tough. I do think it is a lot harder if you have Charmander, of course, but it's such a good feeling to overcome that level of difficulty. So I get what he's saying. I just kind of see it as an appeal, personally. I'm one of those sickos, I guess.
Faster than they die trying. Fun fact, did you know that critical hits disregard status changes? When I lowered Onix's defense around 5 times, critical hits were suddenly a huge detriment to my attack power because the calculation is done on the base power of that attack, disregarding all defense or offense changes. You can bet this led to my death in more than one endurance battle. This is a cyclical frustration until you're high enough level. You start off with a limited amount of money, there are only 3 or 4 trainers which are currently your only source of money, and whenever you lose a battle, some of that money just disappears. Maybe you can cheese some of the fight with potions when Brock's Pokemon aren't one-hit KOing you, but those potions are finite use items that don't respawn after a team wipe, and if you lose enough times after continually saving the game, you won't have enough money to buy more potions. When you're out of money, you're out of options. This is when the grind kicks into high gear. Grinding to absurdly high levels outside Pewter City, running back and forth in this patch of grass to the Pokemon Center. Yeah, I think there might be a problem here. It's not even just that your Pokemon take a lot of damage, it's also that they do little to no damage thanks to the type matchups. When a move is not very effective against a type...
When I was a kid, I ran out of money against Brock when I first played Pokemon. Because in Yellow Edition, you have a Pikachu, and Pikachu's useless against Brock. The fight with Brock in Yellow is extremely challenging. Dango Bengal, thank you for the super chat. Age of Mythology Retold is coming out tomorrow. The advanced early access is available right now for anyone who buys Premium Edition. Okay, that's cool. That might be fun. I might be down for that. I haven't played Age of Mythology in so long. I used to love that. Age of Mythology is a real-time strategy game where basically you channel the gods of Norse, Egyptian, and Greek mythology in your battles. You have epic heroes. It's a lot of fun. I remember loving that game when I was younger. But it's been like ages since I've played. I remember buying it at one of those Scholastic book fairs, I think, if I remember correctly. I had the old physical eggshell, clamshell, not clamshell? Oh, that's the word. That's a CD-ROM, basically. It was in a little container. I used to love that. That was a fun one. It's been ages. Oh, I would play that again. Maybe I'll do it on stream. I do want to do Dead by Daylight at some point for Halloween on stream. That'd be fun, but I digress. Anyway.
That is highly defensive, that health bar will not budge, while they naturally coast through the fight with normal damage even when they're lower level than you. Type matchups matter just that much to a battle. The solution, I feel, would be to not start the game out with such a highly defensive typing. Instead, perhaps using the normal type would have been a good compromise. While it may not teach you right away about type advantages, it means that no matter which starter you pick, the early game won't be split between 2 radical difficulty extremes. As a base single-player RPG, it still works past Pewter City since there are a lot more Pokemon and thus a lot more options. Your Charmeleon's also going to suck against Misty. The difference here is that you have at least some reliable options. Unfortunately, you kind of have to put up with a lot of uninteresting filler in between gym leaders. The stuff you do in between Brock and Misty is on rails. You go from point A to point B, which isn't inherently a bad thing. But trainer battles are rarely, if ever, challenging, and random encounter rates are really damn high. So what you quickly realize is that all you're doing in between gyms is walking through hallways, getting interrupted constantly by wild encounters and trainers, until you finally, maybe, get challenged by the gym leader. Making monotype bosses will railroad you into learning type matchups for sure. It just doesn't always make for a challenging fight. If you have an answer to a gym leader's defined typing, you win. Lieutenant Surge is located in Vermilion City, right next to the Diglett Cave. Diglett is a ground type, meaning it resists all of Lieutenant Surge's Pokemon, and so if you go catch a Diglett, the deed is done before you've even begun. The fights that often matter are the ones that don't follow the rules of their own supposed skill set. Lance, the final member of the Elite Four, is supposedly...
But I think it's good, though, with Diglett Cave, because it encourages you to explore the area. You get to... By having a Pokemon that is resistant to Lieutenant Surge, it goes, okay, what can I do? Is there a Pokemon in the area I can capture? Oh, Diglett. And again, with Mount Moon, you capture Pokemon. You get, I think, Geodude's in Mount Moon, I'm pretty sure, right? You can capture a Geodude, and that's useful against Surge. I just think, like, with a lot of this decision, it is frustrating. It's not as well designed as later games who have more polish and more intrigue to them. But again, it's not like any of this is so terrible. I think, anyway. I'm not acting... It's better than the stretch between Lavender Town and Fuchsia City. That's just trainers. There's nothing really there to explore. And it's a big, expansive area. At least with Mount Moon, you get introduced to the rockets. You get introduced to this kind of... There's the Nugget Bridge as well. There's Bill with Cerulean. I think there's enough there to make it interesting. I think it's oversimplifying it a little bit. I know, yes, of course, you get the right Pokemon type advantage, you can beat the gym. Later games figured out how to make that more interesting. I do agree, but I don't think it's as bad as he's saying it is.
Supposedly a master of the dragon type. Is he, though? 2 of his Pokemon aren't even dragon types. They merely resemble dragons. This is obviously because the Dragonite line are the only dragon types in
Dango Bengal, thank you for the super chat. That's it. If you play Age of Mythology retooled, you must bring me on. No arguing, no ifs and or buts. You'll bring me on. Beware my army of fork boys and laser bears. Fair enough. I mean, listen, if I do that, I would consider it, certainly. I'm not saying I'm going to, though, because I don't want to embarrass myself too much on stream. I love playing games. Doesn't mean I'm good at them. I'd probably embarrass myself so badly. Anyway, let's keep going.
In the first generation, but this also made for one of the coolest fights in the entire playthrough. Why? Because his team was unpredictable. All of a sudden, there was water type or rock type. No longer could you sweep him with ice type moves. Compare that to Blaine, a team of 4 pure fire types. Gee, I wonder what I should use to beat him. The only time in Generation 1 that I've ever struggled against a gym battle is against Brock, at a time where my options were severely limited. Even Sabrina can be challenged after you've already completed most of the other gyms, giving you time to raise your levels. Despite how much I've rattled on about this, I don't mind too much because I've never exactly needed these games to be Omega Shenron Dark Souls hard. I'm only mentioning it because so many people insist that the original games were challenging and that the new ones pale in comparison. Generation 1 is certainly buggier and more frustrating, but that doesn't really make it more difficult, just kind of makes it more time consuming. Enemy Pokemon.
Alright, Baichi Apiadera, thank you for the super chat. The games always have a Pokemon nearby that can help you beat the gym. The Nidorans learn Double Kick, and you can get Mankey in Red and Yellow for Brock. Grass for Misty, Ground for Surge, etc. Yeah, exactly. The games do place Pokemon that are can help you in the areas where you face them, except for Sabrina, who is unstoppable. I love that. Yeah, no. I love that. Yep, that's how they're designed. And I think the Pokemon games from the old generation are tougher, and I think it's a good thing. But I think that challenge is good, especially for Brock early on, because it doesn't force you to really get good at the game, in a sense. Hey, I really appreciate your content, even if I disagree with you about 30% of the time. That's fair, man. That's fair. First time commentary, but I really like your thoughtfulness and your commentary. Yeah, and again, here's the thing also. This is the thing I think is really important that people have to realize in general. Media analysis is a discussion. I firmly believe it's a conversation. Every piece of criticism, even if I like the person, even if I think their opinion is really strong, I can still find points where I disagree with them, and that's okay because it's a discussion. You can't be sensitive about this. I'm not giving anyone personal insults. I'm not making anyone feel bad about themselves or whatever. I just discussing the ideas. And if you disagree with me, discuss it. I'm more than open to discussing it. Even if I think you're wrong. Even if I think you're wrong, that's the part of the discussion that's so important. Valuing and hearing each other out. I think it's better if... One of the reasons I've never done a formal debate with a rival or adversary online, I think adversary is just a strong word, opponent online, is because I think a lot of people don't respect people's opinions enough to leave them listen. They just want to win a debate. They don't want to discuss. And I find the discussion more interesting than winning or losing. I don't know. That's my opinion anyway. I could be wrong. But yeah, anyway, that's my thoughts.
Have really odd move pools that don't take advantage of their strengths, and I can't even begin to discern how their AI is programmed. Sometimes they come across stupid, and other times it's as if they cheated, which is probably because they can actually read your inputs in this generation, meaning they can basically read your mind. But I guess that's offset by them selecting agility for the 18th time in a row because it's a psychic type move, and they're programmed to use super effective moves even if those moves don't do damage. Playing for footage, instead of building a team, I decided to just use Pokemon as I got them, to encourage myself to experiment. Even without creating a team that would cover my weaknesses, there weren't any in-game challenges that made me want to pull my hair out, which I guess is all I can really ask of any Pokemon game, really. I want a majority of the encounters to at least make me think about what I'm doing on a deeper level. I don't need constant team wipes or anything. Unfortunately, Generation 1 has just never struck me as a particularly thought-provoking entry in the series until maybe late game. It's especially grating in some of the long, confusing dungeons you're forced to slog through. Yeah. It's one thing to plow through a place like the Pokemon Tower, a fairly short set of rooms with a few trainer battles. It's over and done with before you know it, and there's even a neat little story about a dead Marowak. On the other hand, Silphco is a frustrating nightmare of a dungeon, built around memorizing warp tiles and battling trainer after trainer after trainer. In most future Pokemon games, I would be okay with a
I've heard this opinion before. I've heard almost this exact argument before, actually. Did Lily just rip this off? Like verbatim? Hang on a second. Let me hear this. Actually, let me hear this here.
Dungeon like this. But in Red and Blue, it's difficult to defend due to the myriad of weird issues it has. Trainer AI is unremarkable, meaning that any fight you get into leads to an audible groan. A limited inventory means you'll constantly be deciding which of your valuable items to throw away, leading to a bunch of time spent in the inventory menu. Since you usually have to fight most trainers in these games to keep all of your Pokemon at a sufficient level, that means you're going to have to battle around 30 brain-dead trainers that almost all have the same Pokemon. I can at least commend this dungeon for having an interesting gimmick, unlike Mount Moon and the SS Anne, but it's hard not to notice that Silph Co is just a longer, more tedious rendition of the Rocket Hideout in Celadon. That dungeon was 3 floors long, had a decent spin tile gimmick, and still had the boss battle against Giovanni at the end. You don't really need Team Rocket to do much more than that. They're already spread across the Kanto region causing trouble, and the gym leader fight with Giovanni is a good enough end to his story. I don't think you needed to fight him on 3 separate occasions to drive the point home that they're troublemakers. We don't need hours of useless trainer battles. We don't need hours of wandering around in caves that have nothing in them but strength puzzles, dear lord. The act of playing through it.
Okay, actually, this is not Lily, because Lily, loves those empty caves when nothing happens. Okay, never mind. I was mistaken. So I thought for a second, because some of the language was so much like Lily Orchard's Pokemon retrospective that she might have stolen, like, directly from this, but there's enough difference where I'm like, no, I'm jumping the gun. Never mind. I thought I found like a plagiarism. And Lily has plagiarized before, but I wasn't sure. I thought maybe it's possible, but I'd have to hear them side by side, and I don't want to listen to Lily Orchard right now. Someone with more strength than me can find it out, but maybe she did. I have no idea. I can't say that. I'm not going to say that. I'm not accusing her of plagiarizing KingK's Pokemon retrospective for her Pokemon retrospective. I'm just saying the points are very similar, including the language of calling them both dungeons. Just saying.
In Blue is sometimes akin to trying to shave your beard by
I'm not
plucking out
accusing
each
her
individual
because
hair
I haven't actually done the legwork.
one by one. Oh, dear God.
Oh, that's nostalgic right there.
Trope of pretty much
Play the
every
whole
older
song,
RPG.
they get
Progression is often
copyright
halted in
struck,
strange
they do.
ways, like a guard who needs a drink to prevent you from entering Saffron City before you're supposed to. Then again, there are interesting roadblocks like the Sleeping Snorlax because it allows you to fight and catch a new Pokemon you can't find anywhere else.
And you
It
use
seems like
Pokeflip.
anything you do regarding these colorful creatures is always going to be an inherently interesting roadblock. You run into a flaming horse, and why the hell wouldn't you want to catch and raise it? The design of Ponyta Rapidash RP.
You know, yeah, I'm gonna check that out actually. Let me go to Let me go to her. Oh God, I hate them. I hate them going back to this. Lily Orchard Pokemon. Oh, I hate this so much. I hate them coming back to this again. Let's play this again. Okay, no Generation 9. We're not doing that. Kanto.
Any other point. I actually slammed out Celadon Gym first since Pidgeotto and Butterfree needed the easy
Hang on,
XP, and
let's-
since I was
let's
going to
check
be in
this
that
out.
basement for a while. Going to the game corner, you beat up the guard and dive into the basement for a series of moving tile puzzles, which, I don't wish to be melodramatic, are the worst fucking things in the game. Not because the movement itself is bad, but because it's so painfully slow. Later games speed this up, but wow, this is cursed.
Okay, so far, no, that's not a ripoff. I'll grant Lily that she's not ripping anyone off.
Move through one floor, get the lift key, move through the second, get to the elevator, we meet Giovanni for the first time. Giovanni's thing is ground-type Pokemon, unlike the rest of his team who uses Pokemon that are the each other with rumors and creepypasta. Otherwise, it's just another too long dungeon that demonstrates how weak ghosts are to psychic in this game. This part of the game is open-ended, but it's clear they want you to go in a particular order because the level you get to go through the best route in the game, Route 12. It takes you through a bridge over a
See, the fact she likes the most boring part of the game is not shocking to me.
because you needed to use flash or wander around blindly. And we'll get into HMs in a little bit because I actually like them, but it's actually...
Okay, so actually she's taking the opposite perspective. That's interesting. Okay, side by side, now that I'm hearing it, not so much. But wait, let me get the Slivco here.
very well designed, a very meaty challenge for where it is in the game, and very satisfying to get through, especially since it's a transitory period of the second act of the game.
Okay, hang on
There's
a
no
second
cheating through it. You have to go through it in this one direction, which means this one direction is...
Okay, so she actually is taking the opposite stance as KingK's video here. But I know for a fact that she mentions...
Very interesting. Oh, fuck, that was another H-bomb quote, wasn't it? Silph Co is just obtuse for the sake of obtuse, and can be effectively skipped over if you're crafty enough. So it's either unbearably grueling or terminally short and easy with no middle ground. And the gym afterward also features a teleporter pad puzzle that, again, you either try every pad and get lucky, or know exactly where to go. It's no surprise they didn't do this kind of gym puzzle a second time. Now this is the part where I'm supposed to talk about how powerful...
Okay, no. Okay, so I was mistaken. She didn't rip it off. I will be fair in that sense. I might have I jumped the gun there. So I'm misremembering it there. Nick Wolf, thank you for the super chat. Even on a stream dedicated solely to reacting to popular good faith videos, you somehow bring it up to Lily. And just how much of a masochist are you? Too much of a masochist, unfortunately. And because they recommended I look it up again. Again, the problem is she keeps entering my life in some ways. Anyway, let's get going.
This classic design philosophy is key to the success of the first generation. I have a lot of favorite designs. Pikachu is a pretty popular one, but I think Raichu's design goes a bit underappreciated.
Yeah,
his tail is
I agree.
a sharper thunderbolt at the end.
Raichu's very underrated. Look how cool this guy is. He has the cool ears, he has the cool tail. I always loved Raichu's design. It's a shame they don't do Raichu. I would get more Raichu plushies if they sold them. Which they do.
It uses its tail to ground itself and protect it from the higher voltage it's taking into its body, most likely as a result of it being more powerful than Pikachu. I like the moodier color choices accentuated by the darker orange and brown. It creates less of a contrast than Pikachu's pure yellow, black, and red, but I think it just makes it cuter. Sandslash shares the same kind of brown to offset the darker yellow, and you'll find that most Pokemon in this generation weaponize that simplicity in their design. Sandshrew is an armadillo, Meowth's a cat, Launcher's a ghost, Vulpix is a fox. I guess you could look at this design mentality as a little too tame. I mean, there's a bird, a rat, a bat. It's no secret that lots of these designs are based off our real world, just as Kanto is based off our real region of Japan. I can sorta understand that complaint, but I think we'd lose a connection to these monsters if they were too far removed from our reality.
I agree.
Personally, I've never had a connection to Digimon, precisely because their designs felt too imaginative and busy. That's not to say their designs are bad, I just never connected with them the same way I did Pokemon. Without even the smallest identifiers, like Ponyta's horse body shape or Zubat's bat wings, I don't think I would resonate as strongly with the original 150. One could certainly argue that that level of restraint is a lost art. Just look at the legendary bird trio, Zapdos.
Yeah, I agree. The simplicity of these designs really is in their favor. I love how simple but direct and powerful and stark and standout they are. It's fantastic. Yeah, the biggest volunteer for tribute in Age of Mythology. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I am a masochist.
A lightning bird said to cause thunderstorms and live amongst the clouds. Articuno, a bad omen to passerby within frigid climates. And Moltres, a bird that's said to bring an early springtime and cold lands. Really, they're just birds, but the mythos backing them is fascinating. It's fun to explore the world and happen across them by chance. Zapdos and Articuno are in optional dungeons, and Moltres is hidden away at Victory Road for some reason. They have extremely high catch rates, making it an ordeal in itself to catch them all, but you're rewarded with incredible stats to carry you through the rest of the game. You also get to speculate even more about what these Pokemon are through your Pokedex entries and associated lore. How did Zapdos end up at the power plant? What is Articuno doing at the Seafoam Islands? The fact that you only get one shot to catch them speaks volumes. They're one of a kind, and that's what makes them so special. Of course, these three birds pale in comparison to the true powerhouse legendary of the first generation, Mewtwo. Here's a Pokemon.
Right? Okay, all of this, yes, 100%. Legendaries was so enigmatic, and you would basically just stumble upon them unless someone told you, hey, go over here and find a cool Pokemon. Like, there's no guide telling you to go here, there's no hints, it's just like, oh, hey, this unexplored part of the game. I've been to this, you go on a path, right, and the path has a little bit of water, and like, oh, it's cool water. That's a nice little design trick. Later in the game, you get surf, and it allows you to surf on water. And you're like, oh, that little water before. I wonder if it leads anywhere. You go there, you use surf on it. Oh, it's a little stream. Okay, you follow the stream to its end, and you find a power plant just sitting there. Like, wow, a whole new section of the game. What's inside? And it kind of leads you to that, and it's a cool little unexpected way that the game organically leads you to these hidden locations. And it makes you think, oh wow, it's something that was not foretold. I had to use my brain to find it. And you find it, and it's a hidden optional section. You could play the whole game and never encounter any of the birds. It's so impressive and cool. I love it. Oh, love it so much.
Pokemon built up within the game itself before you even catch wind of its location. The Pokemon Mansion on Cinnabar Island has hidden journal entries of a Pokemon named Mew and the efforts of a group of scientists to clone it. It's not much, but it's enough to get you wondering, and when you finally gain access to Cerulean Cave, there it is, Mewtwo. Arguably the strongest Pokemon in the first generation, a failed clone of Mew that escaped captivity and now lives in isolation. It's not a huge set of legendaries, but they each have their own areas and are easy to appreciate after reading their Pokédex entries. Gaining more insight into the world of Pokemon by catching them is a genius way to fill out the world. Lots of people prefer the original designs to the newer designs, the region of Kanto to the region of Sinnoh, Team Rocket's simplicity to Team Galactic's deeper motives. I wholeheartedly understand where these people are coming from too. Kanto is a wonderfully designed region. I love how the map closes back in on itself after Cinnabar Island. It has this magical effect where the Elite Four are practically in your backyard, but you have to go prove yourself before you can challenge them. Surfing up from Cinnabar, finally figuring out where that little pond at the bottom of Pallet Town led to, it feels great.
Yeah,
Red and Blue still have the most freedom in terms of what gyms you want to tackle, which is kind of crazy. After the second gym, you don't necessarily need to visit gyms in a linear order. You could theoretically skip Lieutenant Surge and go explore other cities. Hell, if you blitz your way over to Koga, you can learn Surf and fight Blaine. Now, some of the gym leaders have comparable levels. Sabrina, Koga, and Blaine are all around the same level, and these are really the three that I alternate between on subsequent playthroughs. There's really no point in skipping Surge or Erica anyway, as their teams are so low level that you won't exactly be coming back to a challenging fight. This middle series of gym leaders is one of my favorite parts of the entire region. There's so much you can choose to do here. Will you take the cycling road or the boardwalk? Will you challenge Sabrina right away or take on Koga? Which gyms are you more confident you can battle with a lower level team? It might seem like a minor degree of freedom to some, but you have to keep in mind that future games have taken away any semblance of progression-based choice, so feeling any degree of freedom again, however flawed, is pretty refreshing. Each route has its own set of Pokemon to make sure that discovering new areas endows this satisfying feeling of adventure onto the player, even if what they're doing in the moment is a bit repetitious. All of a sudden, there are new monsters appearing, and you get this overwhelming desire to catch them and see what they can do. With this recent playthrough of Red, I caught a Clefairy in Mount Moon and a Drowsy next to Vermilion City, not because I ran around planning to catch them, but because I found them by chance while exploring and decided to use them. That's the other thing, too. You won't just be roaming tall grass, you'll explore caves, seas, cities, power plants, and other locations based off our real world. The groundedness of the setting and activities lend to its thoughtful construction. There's a cycling road, a tour ship, a Pokemon graveyard. In that sense, it's reminiscent of Earthbound, a fantasy JRPG rooted in modern visual aesthetics. Everything in Kanto revolves around Pokemon. They help build things, they help make things, they coexist with humanity. The plot is that a team of thugs want to disrupt that harmony. Team Rocket steal Pokemon like thieves would steal from convenience stores, so naturally you step in and single-handedly dismantle their entire operation from the ground up, because they're trying to stop you from having fun. Giovanni isn't supposed to be this deep character with unclear motives. He's just a bad guy, one who steps down after recognizing your strength and is revealed to be a gym leader. One of the only genuine twists in the entire series. That's not even the only twist. Take your rival. He plays a big part in making your adventure feel meaningful.
Yeah, all this is great so far. I think I agree with most of what he's saying. This idea of the open-endedness of the games is so much fun. Like, it is an open-ended exploration vibe, and I think that really lends to Kanto's beauty as a region. And even the way it's laid out with Saffron City at the center and all these other cities around it, you can, in theory, explore the game at your own rate and get to places you wouldn't normally get to sooner than otherwise. It's a lot of fun.
Another person has a team that evolves with you, a team that battles with you at multiple points throughout your adventure until the champion battle against him at the end. This is a point of reflection, remembering past encounters, all the times this SOB told you to smell him later. It all bubbles up to a champion battle that matters for more reasons than just the title. Think about it another way. Your rival beat you. He was always one step ahead of you. He became the champion first. He realized both your dreams first. And even if he does end up losing, it makes the final battle that much more of a grudge match. You're forced to accept how diverse his team is and acknowledge his strength. He is one of the best fights in the game because of that diversity and unpredictability. But he also rushed through it all. He scouted out the toughest Pokemon and made a beeline for the league so fast that he missed out on the legendary birds. In his quest to become the strongest, he ironically missed out on some of the toughest and most fascinating Pokemon in the world. He was so focused on the destination that he never got to experience the journey quite like the player did. Game Freak could have gone all out and crafted a rich narrative, I'm sure. It wasn't unheard of at the time, but I think the theme you'll consistently run into with Generation 1 is restraint. I don't blame them either, for the record. It was a smart move.
That's an interesting perspective. I never thought of it from that perspective. Yeah, he does go past all these side things. You can take if you take the time to stop and explore the game, you would find these really powerful legendaries. That's interesting. That's an interesting perspective to take. I like that, though. That's cool. That's a cool way of looking at it. I like that. That's the thing about some of these reviews. They get you to reevaluate the same media you've experienced time and time again from a different lens. That's cool. I never thought of it that way. Huh. There you go. You find something new every day. It's really cool. Dangle Bangle, thank you for the super chat. Age of Mythology community is now fighting over the voice work for Retold. Peeps are voiced by people from the regions they're from, and people are calling it woke. That is ridiculous, and I fully believe everything you just said, because that sounds like an argument people online would have. They should be voiced, people from the community, and they should be voiced by that. That's reasonable. It's an international game. Have the Greeks play Greeks, have the Norse play Norse, have the Egyptians play Egyptians. That's cool. That's a cool little touch. Again, I like that stuff. People are way too liberal with the term woke. It's ridiculous. I've always made fun of that. I found a Reddit thread the other day of people finding my old "Everything is Woke" video, and people going like, "Is this guy like one of those anti-woke people, or is he like not?" It was so funny because like some people in the comments were like, "No, he's not one of those guys. You're good," but other people were like, "This guy, I don't know if he's one of those like the quartering types who like hates everything that's woke." I found it very funny. Anyway. But yeah, no, I love that. That's a cool theory with Pokemon. I never thought of it that way. Huh. That's cool. That's really thoughtful. I love that.
Move to start simple.
Oh, Dangle, thank you for the next super chat. Look up Amonra original VA. Amonra is black. Okay, let me do that real quick. All right, let me look this up real quick. Wikipedia right here. The wiki, this is a real quick thing, we'll take a look real fast. Amonra, Queen Amonra, Egyptian hero, mercenary leader of Egyptian mythology. Where is the... Okay, Retold, just add some extra armor. Trivia. No voice info here. I'll look at it later. I'll take your word for it, though. I'll take a look at that. Anyway, let's keep going. I do want to hear the rest
everything
of that
down that mattered, and clearly it worked. Unfortunately, a solid RPG it may be, there are still some glaring holes in this thin crust that seemingly never mattered at the time and make these two games exceedingly difficult to revisit. A rough but uncompromising vision.
Look who's back.
I love those commercials.
And this time, the two of you are partners in the latest installment of the Pokémon
Oh, I
saga.
remember this commercial. How about that?
It's Pokémon Yellow,
Pokémon
the special
Yellow.
Pikachu edition for Game Boy Color, where it's you and Pikachu, catching as many as you can together. Look for the Pokémon Yellow bundle pack. It includes a limited edition Pokémon
I
Game
had
Boy
that
and Yellow
Game
Game
Boy
pack.
too.
I guess it is worth noting that another game was released in this generation. In 1999, Pokemon Yellow would hit American shelves, so I guess it's worth briefly going over some of the changes. Spoiler, there's not much. This would start the trend of definitive versions releasing within the same generation. Although this particular version continues to be a strange case, unlike Crystal, Emerald, and Platinum, Pokemon Yellow is directly inspired by the anime. The main character is meant to be Ash and not Red, you're given a Pikachu to start with that never evolves, sprites now resemble the anime, and Jessie and James appear throughout. This is the only Pokemon game, barring its
love
remake,
Jessie and
that doesn't
James.
allow you to pick from a set of 3 starters, and instead forces a Pokemon onto you. It actually locks you into a Charmander choice situation, where your main Pokemon is ineffective against the first gym leader. Despite its similarities to the anime, simply brute forcing Onix with a Pikachu isn't going to get you anywhere. Thankfully though, Pokemon Yellow has changed a few things about Red and Blue. One of those being that you can catch a Mankey before Pewter City, who learns the fighting type move Low Kick at level 9. No longer will you be completely screwed early game, which I appreciate. Another cool, difficulty-related change concerns your rival. He receives an Eevee.
Okay, Dango Bangle, thank you for the super chat. Amonra's VA is Jean Gilpin. Meredith in Dragon Age 2. Oh, okay. Okay, Jean Gilpin. Okay, that's pretty cool. I like that. All right, that makes sense. Again, I love seeing that echo in there. I have to play again. You make me want to play Age of Mythology. I'm not gonna lie. This is a lot of fun. Oh, okay. That makes more sense. I was gonna say. So, now it's connecting. Okay, connection wasn't being made. Now you made it. Okay, yeah. No, they need to change that. That's fair. That's like the whole thing with Jubilee and X-Men '97 being changed. It may have flown in the 90s, 2000s, but it doesn't fly anymore. 100% agree with that. Yeah, no. Again, it's an opportunity for a different voice actor to take command. Yeah, 100%. That's fair. That's absolutely fair. I agree with that. I agree with recasting her, is what I'm saying.
From Professor Oak, and he will evolve it based on your performance in your first 2 fights with him. If you win both times, he will evolve his Eevee into Jolteon. If you win the first fight but lose or skip the second, he'll evolve his Eevee into Flareon, and if you lose the first fight, he will evolve his Eevee into Vaporeon. I really like the idea behind this, that if you win both fights, he'll resist your Pikachu, but if you're struggling, he'll be weak to your Pikachu. It's a little unfortunate that your first fight with him decides any of this, considering how luck-based these first fights always are, but I really like this in theory, and the series would never attempt to do anything like this again, which is a real shame. Unfortunately, for as much as Yellow version changed, it didn't exactly have the opportunity.
Yeah, I also feel like most of these voice actors don't care. Like they got paid for their work. They were paid for their work very well, and they were the voice of this character for years. It's fine if someone else takes the role after a certain point in time. It's not like I don't think she was like saying like, "Oh my God, Amonra from Age of Mythology is like my iconic role." No, not at all. Dragon Age, much more. So
To ship everything that Gen 2 would eventually overhaul. The special stat still exists. Almost every bug in Red and Blue are still present, as far as I'm aware. There's still a limited inventory,
There's
etc.
more bugs, actually,
It's
in
probably
Yellow.
my preferred version for the little changes. The sprites actually resemble Ken Sugimori's original artwork. Pikachu follows you around in the overworld and you can interact with it. Farfetch'd and Lickitung are no longer locked behind in-game trades. I think it's kind of neat that you fight Jessie and James before Giovanni, not that it really
Love
adds
Jessie
much.
and James.
Pikachu can learn Surf if you do the surfing minigame, which is surprising, but not really necessary. Oh, also Charizard can finally learn Fly, which is good because that never made any sense. I've exhausted Bulbapedia to find the
Just the Pokemon walking behind you is my favorite. I love Pikachu being there. It's such a cool choice. It's one of the reasons why I love Heart Gold and Soul Silver so much. You can have the Pokemon walk behind you. It's great. I love it. And the Surfing Pikachu minigame was so much fun. Again, another component that was rumored in the playground, but you never saw until you played it. It's fantastic.
these changes, and almost none of them even matter. I guess that just goes to show that the problems with Red and Blue run pretty deep. Don't misunderstand me, I still respect Red and Blue. I love almost everything about them conceptually. The simplicity, the adventure, the designs. Yet that can only go so far. I'm not willing to put up with this stuff for long periods of time, and I'd be lying if I said I revisit these games often. I'm sure there are those who swear by the originals even with the bugs, the quirks, the imbalances. It was their childhood, their Pokemon, and I get it. I'm not here to tell anyone off. I'm not here to make anyone angry. I'm not here to invalidate anyone's experiences, only to share mine. If anything, playing the first generation again, it's impressive to me what Game Freak were able to pull off their first time. It proved to me that the core of Pokemon is timeless and has the ability to span multiple generations, multiple childhoods, to create memories that we'll treasure forever. And all of it started with less of a game and more of an event. That's the ultimate strength of the Game Boy's most popular title, a social event masquerading as a time-traveling video game.
Yeah, I agree with that. 100%. Pokemon, people don't realize this. Pokemon back in the day wasn't just a one-game thing. It was like a life-altering experience for so many people. It forced kids who were like shut-ins with games to really go out and talk to people in school. Friendships were formed. There was competitive scene, storytelling between people, the anime, the different manga that existed, the trading cards. All these components added up to a collective whole. And the fact it hit so many different venues at the same time really helped elevate things. Now we're so critical of our media, but at the time, this is one of Game Freak's first projects for a very weak system, essentially, for very weak hardware, essentially. For this complex, mathematically based game with formulas and complex, it was a lot going on. Honestly, Pokemania really elevated, I think, Pokemon Red and Blue to a new level, new heights, which I think is really admirable in hindsight. Now, with that, we are coming to the end of the stream, but do not go anywhere yet. Because even though my stream is ending, I have set this stream up as a raid. That's right, YouTube does raids now. And we're going to raid someone else. A friend of the channel is streaming right now, and I'm going to send all of you to her channel. So, I'm going to end abruptly, because I want as many of you to be raided over there as possible, just to stun them. I'm going to see if they get surprised or not. So, if you've joined this far, thank you so much for watching everything else, and I hope you're ready for what I'm about to send your way. I'm hoping this works. I've never done this before. YouTube might glitch out going on. I don't know how it's going to work out. We're going to see. Hopefully it works. If you watch the VOD of this, might be a very abrupt ending, but hey, you sat here for 3 hours. I think you got to the points I was trying to get to. If you gotta go to bed now, but if not, prepare for the raid. Get ready.